Yalla, come on, come on. Is it working? Sure. How do you know? How do you know? Sort out this thingy here. With the, is it open, the cupboard? Or is it locked? There's interference happening with this. Okay, anyway, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa al-aqibatu lil muttaqin, wa la udwana illa ala al-zalimin, wa salawatullahi wa salamuhu ala ashraf al-anbiya'i wal mursaleen, Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Right, so, alhamdulillah. So we're a bit late because of this microphone. It doesn't want to play nice, but just reduce the mic volume. Have you found the mic volume? Okay, that's better, that's fine. Just keep it there, just stay there for a little while. Let's just see how it responds to a few minutes of interference, whatever. Okay, alhamdulillah. So to all the folks who are going to Hajj this year, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless it for you. Congratulations. And it's a great blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and a great mercy from Him. Many people would love to do that, many people can't. At the same time, my commiserations to those folks who didn't make it into my group, because, well, when you come back and you're crying your eyes out, then you know, I'm not hating, I'm just saying, I'm just stating facts, you know what I'm saying? So those folks who are going with us this year, and myself and Sheikh Abdul Ghaffar, with Uthman the Chief, Shaz, and whatever, it's going to be an absolutely amazing experience. Now this a session, okay, it's kind of weird because it's kind of combining between two things, because my priority is to my own group. However, this is not for them, because Hajj fiqh is not meant to be, or Hajj is not meant to be studied like this. I mean, it's sad, I have to say this, but the Hajj experience is everybody knows, a pillar of Islam, key aspect of deen, blah blah blah. But because most people, when they're going to Hajj, they don't understand the concepts of key aspects of deen and the level of importance we should give it. They don't prepare for it in advance. I mean months in advance, years in advance. Everything that you memorize or you focus on is leading up to this moment to make sure that you go and do Hajj as best as it can be. And the reason why I want to make this point is because actually Hajj is the easiest of the acts of worship. Other than the physical difficulties, right? Hajj is not intentionally meant to be more difficult than it turns out being. Like, for example, if we're doing this in October or November where it's 20 degrees and everyone's just, flying around and just chilling and gliding, and you don't have to worry about getting burnt silly and whatever, no one's complaining. If it comes into January and it's flooding, because I remember, was it 2006, was it? 06? Or whatever, the group I took in 06, we were flooded. We had to abandon Mina on the first night. We had to bust fatwas left, right and center, had to turn out all of the rulings that we are based upon, the obligatory arkan, the pillars of the Hajj, we had to put to the side because of extraordinary circumstances. Up until then, it was a buzz. There was no people getting tired or fatigue or whatever. Last year, myself and Dr. Abid were discussing yesterday, I had the worst experience of heat stroke I have ever had in my life. It was just way too hot, unexpectedly hot. And I think actually the reason why I did is because of the rain on the night before. It rained and thunderstorm on the, I think you guys saw it all over Facebook. The pictures of the thunder hitting the tents and hitting the haram and whatnot. And as you see, you kind of let your guard down. You're thinking, its weather has been cooled down, which it did that night. And it rained, which it did. So you're kind of overconfident for the next day. And me, like Jack the lad, went out to do a bit of scoping. And in the midday, and I was like, I was hallucinating and all over the place. I couldn't work out what was going on. So the fact that the weather makes it difficult for us does not mean that Hajj per se is difficult. If someone lives, for example, very locally, right? I received an email today from one of our group members who was like, really shocked. It's taking 24 hours to do the Hajj journey. right? They're thinking in these times, if you were to go to Saudi in a normal kind of season or off season, non-peak, just taking a cheeky trip to Umrah, it's not a major issue. You get on a direct plane, it's about 7 hours on a direct flight if you fly Saudi. In outside of the Hajj season, there is no direct flight to Medina from Manchester. That's a Saudi policy. But you'd still be able to get to Saudi. You can still be able to get to the Haramain, and normally the cost of the hotels means that it's actually not prohibitive for you to pay for a hotel an extra night to allow yourself to enjoy. Like I'll give you an example. If you arrive at 6 o'clock in the morning, at 6 o'clock in the morning, when the hotel costs 50 quid a night, it's a no-brainer to jump into the hotel at 6 o'clock, even though check-in, technically you've only got 6 hours to stay in that hotel, right? Because they want you in normal season to be out of the hotel at 12 o'clock. So you're thinking to yourself, normally you wouldn't do that. No one's paying full price for only a quarter of the hotel stay. You get what I'm saying, right? By that time you're so tired and whatever, you do it. In Hajj, when it costs £250 a night, or £300 or whatever, you're not making that call. It's not value for money, and you work out some other kind of solution. That's what people don't understand when it comes to Hajj season and the politics behind flight schedules and the like versus off season and so on and so forth. And these are the things that we create difficulty for ourselves. And this is something that when it comes to my own group, I'll be pointing out at different places why our Hajj will never be like the Hajj of the Prophet ﷺ. Even though we're very proud in our group that we established the Sunnah to a ridiculous level. Like, we will try to preserve the Sunnah in every single aspect. And the irony is that the Hajj that we do and the experience that we have is a very special, unique one. Everybody loves it, but it's not the experience of the Prophet ﷺ. Because we have to create a pseudo 2018, 2019, 2016 type of experience of today that focuses on tarbiyah, unity, brotherhood, ease, a da'wah, starting to pray again, all different kind of things that we want to achieve from Hajj, which would never have been the case at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, because, for example, they're not all forced to sleep in the same tent. Right? When you think of Hajj today, it's synonymous with, unless you're paying silly money like 15 grand, 20 grand, and you can afford to then be in little rooms and whatever, which is now obviously a growth area because the Westerners have got a lot of money and that's where they're putting their money now. Dar es Salaam, who take, for example, my group, Hajj with AE, they do all the logistics for it. This is like the first time they've ever come down to the Manji Bisra level, the economy level. They're terrified about that whole thing because they're used to silly Americans paying, forgive me Americans, they're used to people paying 20k, 25k, no problem. We're going to have our own, our own independent, individual kind of room with our own toilet and all this kind of behavior. And the irony? The irony is that Hajj is probably closer to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ than our one, right? Because it's only because of the amount of people and the amount of issues that come with so many people that they had to create a tent city. There's nothing in the Sunnah of having to be in a tent or big tents or rows of cubicles of rough looking toilets or being in certain locations. It's the logistics of the amount of people that want to go there that have created this subculture where everybody's all focused on these issues. There was never a time at the Sunnah where you are in a tent with 50 odd people where everybody is shoulder to shoulder on a mattress. But anybody who's been Hajj and anybody who will go Hajj for the foreseeable future will be experiencing exactly that. They associate that with the classic proper Hajj experience. It has nothing to do with Hajj. It's a modern version of what we are forced to do to have some kind of quality Hajj. At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, like i'tikaf, when people come and they think of, I'm going to do i'tikaf in Ramadan, and they think when they're at home making that judgment call, they see this kind of system of a bar and a curtains, and they believe that the masjid will do box off each curtain, right? And that itself has its own mazar, its own attraction. You've got much close to your friends if you're there and whatever, whatnot. At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, that wasn't what i'tikaf was. I'tikaf was people in individual tents, completely closed off, completely independent. Now masajid can't deal with that, right? It's not, they haven't got the ability to deal with that. And so again, our perception of i'tikaf is dominated by our modern context, when in actual fact it's something completely different. Now that doesn't mean that we don't create a great vibe in our modern i'tikaf, but it's a modern version of the i'tikaf. And that's what you need to understand about Hajj. What you're about to experience is a modern version of Hajj. And the people who are following Sunnah, the people who want to try and look after you, are going to create a great Islamic experience during that modern pseudo Hajj. So that's important for you to know, that important caveat from the beginning. So, Hajj itself is serious. There's a lot of fiqh. It's a lot of detail, depending upon how deep you want to go. And me, I do want to go deep. With my group, we will take this to an insane level. We will cover the history, the culture, the azkar, the dua, meanings of, breaking each one down, make every single person live this experience like real, whilst admitting and putting people at rest that don't have that ability, or maybe of an elderly age and it's too late for them to kind of get into that study and memorizing kind of game, saying to them that you don't need to worry, that Hajj is a piece of cake. Literally now you've got cards and you've got necklaces and you've got apps that you could literally walk around and just read things at different stages. And you could even cup your hands and just go there and just look at that and read. I mean, it could become a clear, easy, simple, robotic movement. And by the way, the millions that do it every single year, the vast majority of them haven't studied any one squat thing about Hajj. Just copy the next guy, right? And in essence, the copying of the next guy will actually technically do your Hajj. It will be an incredibly poor quality Hajj. Because those people who want to go to Hajj just to do Hajj are the lowest of people of aspiration. They don't have himmah, right? The most important thing about Hajj that you go is that this is to be the beginning of my life. The beginning. As you know, in our culture, it's the end of our life, right? People put it off. It's the closing seal. It's I've completed my 5 pillars now. I'm done. I can go back now, retire. People can call me Hajj Sahab and bring me some garlands and whatever. And that's basically their kind of cultural concept. Whereas for us and for a boom, frankly, in the last 10 years, younger and younger people recognize this is a starting point. It's a starting point to a whole different way of thinking, because you've been given a tarbiyah, a culturing on this journey that's changed your mindset to everything. I mean, to everything. Back in the day, we wouldn't question things, for example, for political expediency. In our group this time, we will make political observations at every single point, so that people go back and they're not just educated in an Islamic point of view or a practical point of view, but are aware of the ummah's issues, problems, and the political responsibility that they have. Whether they should be overtly harsh or whether they should be overtly lenient, and for what reasons, according to authorities, etc., etc. So what I want you to know is, especially those people who are not going with me, especially, please don't go on this journey. You still got a couple of weeks left, okay, to really go deep. Please don't go on this journey thinking, I'm going to do Hajj. That's low man thinking. That's small mind thinking. All right, everybody can go and do Hajj with their eyes closed, with not very much money, and just go through the motions. When we teach this from a legal point of view, the arkan of Hajj, which we call the pillars, are so simple that you only need to go to Arafah for exactly 30 seconds, and not a single scholar will ever give any penalty for you. You fulfill the condition. You don't need to spend the night in Arafah. You are able to take your time and spend the majority of it in your apartment in Shisha Azziya or in your Mecca hotel, and only come back to Mina, the place that you hate, the toilets that you hate, for about 4.5 hours or 4 hours and 35 minutes. I can even give you the figure. Create this robotic, fake kind of reality where you're just doing the bare minimum and you won't even notice. You won't even notice and go through it. Why would you go to that effort to create such a false paradigm in your mind and in your heart? So that's, I think, the most important message from me to everybody. My group, like I said, we will be speaking for days about this kind of stuff. We'll be going into a lot of detail. I want you to appreciate that right now, the way that I see it is that we've got roughly about an hour. And in that hour, without going into the evidences, because frankly, you don't have the time for the evidences. And also, it doesn't make sense, okay? Because you need to study this properly, like a student, studying with pen, paper, understanding this, that, whatever, which itself takes a day or two of getting you kind of ready and prepped for what it means to be writing things down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and demonstrate the entire Hajj from beginning to end to give you an overview. So those folks who are not going with me and going with their various groups, at least you've seen it actualized in your mind. You know what to expect. what the common mistakes, and a few tips that I can share in my absence, that you'll be able to go through and get the job done. The first thing that I will start with, Bismillah, is to say that even though I said that the Hajj is the easiest thing in the world, because you could just simply copy, right? Please note my golden rule. This is to everybody. Do not copy the next person, because the next person has absolutely no idea. Everybody is like that. The vast majority of the people are like that. This is not the norm for people who are going on Hajj, to sacrifice time, to spend hours reading and studying in advance, to come to a class. This is not the norm, right? So the majority of people are just following the crowd. And that's why you will see with your own eyes large, incredibly frustrating and irritating groups that are holding on to one another and chanting after a leader. Leader goes, Allahumma. They go, Allahumma, Rabbana, Rabbana, Atina. And you know, everybody's just, and every nation will have that. And this will be the actual nature of their Hajj, just a copycat version. And if that person doesn't say anything, then they just walk around and just do nothing. So I want you to know that you are seeing a gathering of the world's nations, the world's people, different levels of knowledge. Do not be copying people. Copy what you study, copy what you learn, have confidence in what you have invested time in. Do not go with the flow of the other people and doing what they're doing, because you'll see all kinds of things. And by the way, some of these differences of opinion are legitimate as well. So for example, in our group last year, we had one brother who lost his top piece. Do we call him one piece? Topless, sorry, yeah. So we nicknamed Bachara Topless. I forgot that we called him Topless. Actually, I was being more polite to him. I kept calling him One Piece. But actually, he was topless, right? And I remember him, and it's an amazing story, obviously. This is on our journey where all of us are now on our way to Mecca to do Tawaful Ifadah. And we got a little bit split up. And as we got a little bit split up, some of the lads, they took their matters into their own hands, and they jumped onto trucks and things like that to catch a lift. Because you just do what you can. It's a madness. So as he's done one of those Superman jumps, he's obviously, when you jump like that, the whole thing becomes loose. So his one hand, he's gone for his arm to grab his thing. He's grabbed the back of the thingamajig. He realized this is weak, obviously, so he's grabbed his second hand. He's gone to grab that. Whoops, and that's all gone. Alhamdulillah, it was the top part. Obviously, it could have been a lot worse. So Lala's obviously now just got, so he calls me. He calls me and he goes, listen, Sheikh, in logical progression we were talking about prayer. I'm sure you said that it's not a condition to cover the shoulders in prayer. Okay? And that's right, yes? And I said, yes, that's correct. Now, let me just pause there. Have you ever in your life ever heard, sisters, maybe not so relevant, but the lads, ever heard that it's okay to pray topless? No. As a norm, it's not the norm, right? Okay? You know how much. Listen, you come here to go to the masjid and try doing that. The uncles here will give you a kick in the head if you even wear short sleeve, and you're going to try and pray with topless. Yeah. So it doesn't matter about the nature of the thing. There is a very strong cultural hold that we must cover at least our arms and our skin and so on and so forth, and correctly so. But technically, it is legally allowed, acceptable. The prayer is valid, but what a poor prayer. But the prayer is valid if a person does not cover the top part, because the aura is the fundamental aspect. The aura, that part which is not allowed to be seen by other people, and that's at the belly button. And so I said, that's correct. He goes, well, what about tawaf? Okay, so I said, what are you talking about, bro? And he basically gave me a quick summary, and I said, you're fine. If you can't find something, okay, then that's fine. Because it wasn't just something. You see, he could have, and we'll come to this point later, popped into the shop, okay, and pick up a 40, 50 real, which is about 8-10 quid, cut sleeve. Cut sleeve, like a thobe, like this, but short sleeve. Very simple and very cheap. Put it on and he's done. The problem is, as we're about to learn, that he was not allowed to enter into what we call a state of al-hil, because he's in a state of al-haram. He's in ihram. He's in a state of haram. Ihram, the word, means that you enter into the state of haram. Things are all becoming haram. And then when you are out of that state, you are into a state of halal. We call it al-hil. And until you have done the necessary things to enter into that state, you can't do haram things. For example, put on normal clothes. So he was the problem for him was not, have I got enough money to buy clothes, is where am I going to find a top half of another ihram or any ihram. So he couldn't. He tried, and it was getting late, and time is of the essence on busy days because you need to get back to Mina for the night. And so I told him to go ahead and make tawaf topless. And I'm sure that, alhamdulillah, it wasn't one of us. He was a young lad, thin and all the rest of it. So that is that part. The people were protected from that fitna. So my point is that there's a big difference in a person doing things as a very bare minimum, just the legal minimums, and then doing something which is in the full complete way with all the extra trims and dressing and with all the bells and whistles and with all the dua. And that's the difference. Just like if you can pray in your Bermuda shorts, technically, that person and the one who's praying by covering themselves and putting extra robes on and then covering their head, and there's no comparison between the two. Allah said, خُذُوا زِينَتَكُمْ عِنْدَ كُلِّ مَسْجِدٍ. There's no culture in the world that accepts that a man walks into any form of work, formality, religion, capitalism, doesn't matter what form of life, in Bermuda shorts, and they see them the same as someone who's fully clothed. There's an honor difference. So what then in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Likewise the Hajj. Anyone who goes into a bare bones idea that I'll just go around and just make it up as I go, then it's a shame. You'll pass, but it's a shame. So let's break it down what Hajj is. Okay? I'm not going to go, this is not about the spirituality. This is not about trying to touch your hearts and make you whatever. You are all committed to going to Hajj. That's it's done now. You're gonna be there. Now it's about just trying to understand the nuts and bolts. Hajj, in our modern concept, there are 3 types of Hajj. Okay, 2 of them are irrelevant for you, not irrelevant in Islam, in fiqh. Okay, not irrelevant if someone comes to me in my group with a problem. By the way, remind me, listen, take this number down. This is my number over there in case you have a problem. If you have a problem, Lala, do you have it on your phone? No, you don't have your phone, do you? My Saudi number, sick. Right, 055 425 8506. 055 425 8506. If you're stuck, you're desperate, give me a call. If you don't get a response, you know that I'm asleep. Otherwise, I answered the call regardless. Don't bother sending me text messages. 055. This is what you would dial when you're there. If you're dialing, if you're roaming. By the way, don't roam. The cheapest that you're gonna get a program is Vodafone, and that's £6 at the moment. Okay, per day, which adds up to what? 6 times 120, 120, which is about 100 quid more than what it'll cost to get a local SIM. Or 80 quid, So get an STC SIM over there. By the way, don't go for the Mobile or for the Zain. They're rubbish. Just get STC, which is Saudi Telecom, local SIM. They're the best, the strongest network. So once you've got that number, once you've got that local SIM, then you dial like a local number, which is 055 425 8506. Don't bother texting because I do not respond to texts. Okay. You want to speak, just call, and the golden rule is to just keep repeating the calling, okay? Because there are thousands of calls coming in, and my priority is always to the group. But if you keep calling, I will pick up over 6 hours, over 7 hours, and never ever stress about what situation you're in. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this act of worship incredibly easy. There's a solution, but you just need to know that there's a solution. So if you get into a problem, there's always a way out. Why did I say that? What was the problem we're talking about? Why did I think of telling you to call me if there's a problem?
3 types of Hajj.
3 types of Hajj. Jazakumullah khair, thank you. There are 3 types of Hajj, and you will only focus on the 3rd of them, which is by the majority of scholars the best of them, the complete one of them. And I'm not going to waste my time or yours talking about the other 2. However, those other 2 are more relevant to me, because if you come with a problem, I might tell you to change your Hajj. And changing your Hajj because of a medical problem, or because you are unable to make Umrah, or because of some medical emergency. So I will say to you, alright, we are breaking from your original tamattu, because that's what we were doing. We're doing a Hajj tamattu, okay? Hajj tamattu as a phrase, tamattu, you are all mutamatti'een. You are mutamatti', which comes from the phrase mata', which means to enjoy. This is the enjoyable Hajj. It's the easiest of the Hajjs, and it's the most enjoyable. Why? Because once you've done Umrah, you come out of Ihram, you chill for a long period of time. That's the mata'a, that's the enjoyment. Then you go back into your Ihram again. That's why it's called Tamattu'. And I'll explain what this is later. But my point is that the Ifrad and Qiran, they exist, and they were the Sunnah as well, by the way. However, they are, for our context, difficult, not so relevant, and if it needs to be done, then that's a fatwa that your group leader, if you have one, or a scholar that's with you, or if you're desperate, then call me, and then we'll see whether you need to move to that. So we're doing Hajj Tamattu', and to basically understand what Hajj Tamattu' is, it's basically an Umrah with a Hajj. So let's go to Hajj first. What is Hajj in essence? Hajj can be broken down into a few basic big moments, right? It's going to a place called Mina, spending a night there in Mina, getting yourself ready on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, and then from there on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah going to an area called Arafah. Bit of plains, bit of hills, bit of mountains, but a wide open area called Arafah. And in that place there, spending the entire day there, and then in the night time, then moving on to another place not too far from there, a couple of miles down the road, and that place is called Muzdalifah. You spend the night there, and then you will wake up in the morning, and on that day, that's the 10th, so we mentioned the 8th, 9th, and now the 10th, you've woken up now. The 10th of Dhul Hijjah is also known as Eid, okay? So everybody's doing their Eid, but for us it's the big day. It's the most important day of Hajj. That's why it's called Yawm al-Nahar, Yawm al-Hajj, Yawm al-Hajj al-Akbar. It has different phrases. On this day, the major actions will come to the fore. Even though the most emotional, spiritual, the most personally important will be the 9th, Arafah, okay? And how you prepare and how you deal with it. But the big day of actions is the 10th. Because once you wake up from Muzdalifah, you go back to your tent in Mina, about an hour away, not too far. And then from there, just, get your energy. And then you now start this big kind of series of events. What are those series of events? The first is to stone one of 3 pillars. The 3 pillars that are there we'll come to. There's only the last one, the big one that you stone on the first day of Hajj. Then you will cut your hair, then you will do the qurbani, or it will be done for you. Then you will effectively start making your way to do the big tawaf, which is 7 circuits around the masjid, around the Kaaba, and then do the sa'i, which is effectively going up and down between 2 points, Safa and Marwa, small hills, 7 times. And then getting yourself back to Mina, the place where you were on the 8th, where your camp is, which is a little base kind of camp for about 5 days, getting back there before evening, or before the night at least. And then remaining there, and up until now you have completed virtually the most important, essential aspects of the Hajj. If you're tired, if you're ill, you can delay what I've just explained to the 11th, to the 12th, to the 13th. You can delay. But the majority of the people will try and smack it out on the 10th. Then you will remain in this place called Mina, all day basically relaxing, reading, chilling, ibadah, for the next 2 to 3 days. 2 obligatory, 3 optional. Each day you will go out and stone the pillars, 3 of them, and then come back to base, and then again, and then if you stay for the 13th, again. You'll try to do that after Dhuhr, and you'll try to do that before evening. And then this 5-day intense period is the essence of Hajj. That doesn't change for anything and anyone. That is the essence of Hajj. Okay? After a couple of days, when you're about to leave, you will do 1 more tawaf of the masjid. This is called the farewell tawaf. Alright? You can call this technically part of the Hajj, but the reason I don't include it is because this is also technically something we do in Umrah as well. So it's kind of like playing both roles. But what these 5 days that I spoke about, stoning, Mina, Arafah, Hajj, Tawaf al-Ifadah, Tawaf al-Sa'i al-Ifadah, the shaving, the cutting, this is nothing to do with Umrah. This is all essential, new, different, separate acts. And that is the Hajj. That is essentially the Hajj that we call. So you can now see this country has offered the businessman's Hajj for many years. Al-Hidayah in this country used to do it, and Dar es Salaam have been doing it for donkey's years from the States. Businessman meaning he's only got 1 week, so he flies in on the 7th, which is the last day that private jets or special flights, which costs silly money, will come in, and a person will literally go straight to Mina, okay? And they will not do tamattu', they will not do the Hajj that we're doing, which means they will not do an Umrah, and they'll go straight into Hajj, and they will then perform all these acts. They won't wait until the 13th. On the 12th, they will stone, they'll do Tawaf al-Ifada, and then by the night time of the 12th of the Hijjah, they're at the airport off on the 13th, getting back home for the 13th. And it's 6 days total, including traveling time. So as I said, you can make this as small as you want and as complete and big as you want. And if I've just described to you what essentially is Hajj, the Hajj that we do is basically this plus an Umrah. And an Umrah, whether you're in Mecca or whether you're in Medina, it doesn't matter. Obviously Medina is more the Sunnah, you're doing it like the Prophet ﷺ did, is to come in Ihram to Masjid al-Haram, to the Kaaba, go around 7 times, go and do the Sa'i, which is 7 times in between the Safa or Marwa, and then go and cut your hair or shave it, or for the women just cut a piece, and that is the Umrah done. So when you combine an Umrah, and once you've shaved this, cut this and whatnot, you get changed now, and now you're just chilling now, you're enjoying Mecca. 4 days, 5 days, you might even go to Medina and come back, it doesn't matter. But you're now off, you're out of Ihram, you're in a waiting period now, waiting for Hajj to start. So Umrah plus Hajj is called Hajj Tamattu', the complete form, the full package. Can't get any bigger, can't get any more complete. And that's what we're going to be doing. So that gives you a very brief overview. Now a bit more of the specifics, okay? I'm going to, for the sake of, how many people, first of all, how many people are with me? Put your hands up. Cool. How many people are going, including those who are with me, are going to Medina first in their package or group that they are? How many people are going to Mecca first? Put your hands up. Okay. Of those people who are going to Mecca first, how many of you are going to Medina after Hajj finishes? Good. Okay. So let me then state for that, because of that, okay, that it doesn't really matter whether you arrive into Jeddah and are going to do a Mecca first, all right, or whether you're in Medina, because the act of Umrah doesn't change. Obviously Mecca, it means that you've had to put Ihram on in Istanbul or Dubai or in England or in the plane, which is a mission, okay? If you're thinking, oh, you know what, no problem, I'll do it in the toilets. Habibi, you can't even go to the toilet in those toilets. How you think you're going to take your clothes off and put on that disaster as well in the toilets, unless you're literally a stick, yeah, then I don't know how it's going to happen. So make sure you do it in the airport, the hub airport, or at home. Don't rely on doing it the thing. And by the way, obviously, it's not just you, it's another 300 people on the plane who are thinking exactly the same thing as well. So if you are going to be doing, if you are that person that is doing Mecca first, then that's a little kind of problem that you've got. Obviously, those who go Medina first haven't got this issue, because they will take Ihram from their hotel rooms. So those who go to Medina, have your Medinan experience, whatever it is. On the day it's ready, it's time to go, you'll go to your hotel and you will start your Ihram. For those people who are here in the UK and are planning to get their Ihram, because they're going to Mecca first, now that we've got you two people, now let's bring you together now, okay? And we'll start with how do you prepare for Ihram. The actual essentials, and when I use the word essentials, I mean the bare bones. You don't need to do anything. If you're talking bare bones, you just need to take all your clothes off and then put on these 2 sheets. Women, of course, don't enter into any clothes for Ihram. Women, their Ihram is their normal clothes. Everything, okay? Unless they wear niqab or unless they wear gloves. If they wear niqab or gloves, then it's not allowed to cover your hands and not allowed to cover your face in Ihram. So that's the women's, so all their socks apply, all their shoes, all their whatever, wear your normal clothes, Islamic clothes, proper clothes, okay? Now, for men, the Ihram is 2 sheets. And these 2 sheets, they don't have to be white, but it's sunnah for them to be white. They don't have to be like the kind of material that you see, but it's best for certain reasons. A lot of people, especially those back home from the ethnic kind of countries, South Asia or Indo-Pak, they prefer the kind of bed sheet, kapra type, okay? And they have their own advantage because it's lighter. However, the towel material that is the dominant kind of ihram that you will be given by your groups or you'll buy over there, the Chinese made ones, they are made of a towel material which has its own advantages. It helps you to stay dry, meaning it is heavier, makes you hotter, but it wipes up sweat easier. It's a bit more comfortable, and it's also good to keep yourself dry if you're going to wudu and all this kind of thing, especially when it comes to Hajj later on. So there are 2 sheets therefore that we're talking about here that a person will put on, and the nature that actually is used, that a person uses to put these 2 sheets on, is not tawqifi. That means it's not something that the Prophet ﷺ insisted has to be done in a certain way. We're just going to use Isa here to demonstrate for those folks who have not done this before or don't know.
You can stand here. You can stand here.
There, yeah? So we'll start with the bottom first, okay? The top is kind of, you know what, we ain't got time for that. Come on, Isa. So when it comes to the bottom, right? As I said before, there is no prophetic way of putting this on. Everybody puts a towel around themselves, you know, after they have a bath, and they have their own ways of doing it. And the way that you try to, you know, to tie it up is how you prefer to tie it up, how you feel most secure. A lot of people just simply go like that and they do it like that. And that's because you're only going from the bathroom to your bedroom. You're not doing anything. Here you need obviously much more time. It needs to be solid. It needs to be more practical. You've got to consider the issue of salah. You've got to consider the issue of dirt. So you can't have it too low where it's touching the feet. So I want you to know, there is no set way to put the ihram on. However you put this on. So some people, for example, the obvious things are you can't show your awrah. You've got to protect yourself from the wind, from going into salah, going into sajda, from sitting down, for in case it slips. So in the worst case scenario, if it slips or it splits. So it's silly to do it like this, right? To set it like that and it splits, you're not allowed to have underwear or anything like that. So it makes sense to have your whatever it is covering the front part and the back part, and allow a split if it happened to split here or to fall here. You have time, and that is this is very real. This is, you know, it's funny, it's whatever, but all of this applies. So I'll just give that to you just to put round. The key things to remember when it comes to ihram is to not do it with your legs tight. Okay, this is a mistake that people do, is they put the ihram on in this kind of way, and then when they start walking, it's like that. Okay, so you basically take a squat position and you create enough space, and by your knees, not by your legs, okay, it's about your knees, okay, to push open that, to create the walking space that you need for when you are moving. All right, and in terms of actual physical location, what you need to know is that whatever you do, and most of the time we recommend people to put a belt on, and it's allowed to put a belt on, and the best company for that is Hajj Safe. And you can, if you just Google that, Hajj Safe, their belt is expensive. Okay, you can put any cheap belt on. If you're comfortable and confident, then you put any belt on. It's because over a number of years we've been using the Hajj Safe. We found that it's easily the best belt, stroke, thingy bag. What do they call it? Money bag or whatever. It doubles up as both, and it goes round. Now, if you had that there, and you was to put that all the way round, then you put this around it, okay, and then you start rolling it up. A lot of people will go just with this without the belt because it's already tight as it is. With the belt now there, it's now holding it in place as well. And you've got to make sure that the 2 considerations are the awrah, so the belly button itself has to be covered so it doesn't go too low, so you want it to be, and you want to lift it up so that it's not below the ankles. Why not below the ankles? Because this is what we call a straight single piece. You know, there's a concept called isbal. Isbal, is my head showing on this? Yes. The isbal is something which the Prophet ﷺ prohibited, which is when your garment goes underneath your ankles. Now, scholars have differed over this, so I'm not going to get into the differences of opinion over that, but the majority of scholars, they took this very literally, and they said, therefore, anything which goes below the ankles are not allowed. Right? Regardless of prayer or not prayer. The correct position actually is that this ruling was never sent for trousers. This is not for trousers. This is for this. Yani a thawb that has a single opening. Alright? And the reason for that is because long trousers just look stupid. They don't make you look like a king. They don't make you look like someone that you're proud of. Whereas this, even in our culture, when the girl she gets married, the whole thing is a train, right? The king, when he walks in, his is meant to flow. Robes, when they're long and they flow, indicates affluence, wastage, extravagance, the ability to be extravagant. So you must be noble, you must be a king. That pride is what the Prophet ﷺ prohibited and said is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. That doesn't happen in long trousers. If you've got long trousers, you just look an idiot, that's all. You get what I'm trying to say? So this ruling is not for trousers or kurta or shalwar, and whatever. It's for open, single openings. This takes single opening. So that's why when you put an ihram on, you've got to be careful that the bottom part fulfills the Islamic rules of being above the ankle. So you'll pull it up enough to be there. Everybody happy with that understanding? Yeah. Again, there are a few other ways. How did you wear yours? How do you prefer to do yours?
Same actually.
That one like that.
Yeah.
Lana, which one do you do?
Same.
Just straight round.
Yeah, but just make sure you got it across the front of your first.
Yeah. The most important thing is this cover here. Now there are other ways of doing that. Okay. Then another way of doing it is to get this right at this level. And this people find this method easier if you're doing it yourself, and you're not very not confident. Yeah. Huh? If you're doing it yourself, people do it like this, and then you will then put one hand in to make it tight like that, so that you've got that cover, and then make this kind of creation where you just fold it, as opposed to going all the way back around. But there's nothing stopping either way. The main thing is that there is no prophetic style to putting this on. Is that clear, everybody? Now, the top part is also incredibly flexible. So technically speaking, right, the irony is that when you guys go in your Hajj groups, everybody's going to be going like this, right? Like as if, it's haram to see anything. And then when Hajj is like this, everyone will be walking around like this. And if you're Hasib and the chieftain, it's like... So this, obviously, the level that you cover yourself with, this is not a condition. When you're sitting down, it's too hot, you can take it off, you can, just if you're sitting down, just leave it loose like that. There's no condition per se that it's got to be covering your body all the time. But when you are in normative time, in a normative scenario, you're just basically keeping it as much decorum as possible. You're just putting that over the shoulder and trying to keep it there. And you are allowed to, like you are allowed to use pins to be able to just hold the flaps down or firm so that it doesn't split open. You're allowed to put a pin towards the back to also keep this from continue falling down when you go into sajda. Now when you've got experience or you've got a towel material, it doesn't tend, or good towel material, it doesn't tend to keep falling down. But when you don't have that material, you'll always see this happening. Now, I want you to know that the most important things, like far more important than the nature, far more important than how to put the ihram on right or wrong, is the two things I'm about to show you now. Far more important. Number one, your constant obsession by trying to do this, then it falls down again. And your constant, I'm trying to say, this is a disaster. Your thing falls down, let it fall down. It's there, that's it. That's how you carry on your prayer. You go sajda, go and ruku, whatever, whatnot. Even when you stand up, if you don't have the decorum and the adab to be able to put it on properly, you just leave it like that. Because all this movement is not the behavior of someone in prayer in front of Allah. Fidgeting, this, that, whatever. It's meant to fall down, that's it, it's done. Carry on, no one cares. Is that clear? Second, whether you are in the prayer or not, and that's why I said you got the adab of doing it, the way to put this on, if it does fall down and you really must put it back on, is to, if this is my hand, okay, you put your hand in the loose part and you stretch your fingers up like mine are. You stretch your fingers up, and that is to place it. You place it on your back. Instead, what you'll see everybody doing is smacking the guy in the back every single time, in the eye, every single time, and you won't care. You think, so what? I don't care about them, until it happens to you and it is a killer. Alright? Because that's what everybody does. Every rak'ah. And I make this point because it is automatic. People with me, people I know very well, even myself, you're just not thinking straight. And you just do that. Okay? And because you get irritated after a while, it's, keep falling down and you do it and you smack someone. So just like you will become mindless for a second like that, I want you, when you do get your obligatory smack in the face, to be calm. Because Hajj is, as you know, patience. Well, it actually is a time that you do start to develop these kind of skills where you are going to get abused by people who really don't care, who are arrogant about it, don't apologize, whatever. Don't wait there for an apology. Don't expect something from everybody. Expect rather the opposite, that this is going to be tough, I'm going to get hurt, I'm going to get stamped, I'm going to be... Now, that's not to say it's excusable, it's acceptable. It's not to say that it's haram, it's not to say that you are sinning if you reacted in a bad way. But that's not what Hajj is about. Hajj is not about knowing what is haram and halal in reaction. Hajj is, how can I push myself to become a person where I can just swallow all of this anger, where I can be completely in calm control, where normally I would never ever allow someone to do that, and then repeatedly as well. So that's why I say use the fingers, and by using the fingers you get the drop, okay? And then you let it go, then it kind of drops into place. It will only last that one unit in prayer, by the way. It will only last. Which is why I say, in my opinion, you shouldn't even be doing that in salah. If it falls and carry on. So this is the aspect of ihram. Now, what did we say for the condition of ihram? When a person enters into the state of ihram, this person is entering into a zone. To be a muhrim, which means a person in ihram, it means a person in a zone. The fact that the cloth is called ihram is just because the ihram is the most obvious state of the zone. The only other option is for you to say, I am in a state of ihram. It's like hijab. When you are wearing hijab, everything is covered. Your behavior, what you say, how you present yourself, how you speak. And oh, by the way, because the head cover is the most obvious sign of a person that they are in a state of hijab, we call the cloth the hijab. The ihram is the same. It's just a sign that you are in a state of ihram. What is a state of ihram? A state of ihram prohibits a number of actions. So for example, it's not allowed to have marital relations, it's not allowed to do foreplay, it's not allowed to be, it's not allowed for a person to get married, it's not allowed for a person to make themselves look very, very clean. It's not about beautification. That's why it's prohibited to perfume yourself in ihram. That's why it's prohibited to comb your hair when there's a risk of it becoming hair falling out or hair being removed. It's not allowed to shave, not allowed to cut, not allowed to trim. So the things that are associated with normative, beautiful life are not permissible, because you are in a really rough state of ibadah. And what you are trying to do in ihram, like if you're thinking, what is ihram even about? Ihram is about putting you physically and mentally into the most humble state possible. Taking your ego and smashing it. And that's one of the great things that we do when we meet our group, and you've got people, who didn't come forth and not really kind of happy like the others to show enthusiasm, whatever, because they feel they're too big to do that. Okay, and I always laugh at those folks, because this is a temporary state which is never going to help you in Hajj, because Hajj is all about the destruction of the ego, where people realize that they are now equal with everybody else. Nobody cares who you are. You're not in your surgery, you're not in your hospital, you're not in your lawyer's office now. There's no signs. You can't tell anyone who you actually are. You do look silly. You are wearing a big nappy. You do look you can't give it the big one when you're all looking the same. You can't give it the big one when you stink. You can't give it the big one when your face is full of dust and your hair and that is one of the objectives of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala behind all the people. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Al-Hajju Hajju wa Thajj, that the Hajj is lots of noise and flowing blood. Flowing blood is not courtesy, it's not decorum, it's not gravitas, it's not nice, it's the opposite, right? It's dirty, it's rough, whatever. Shouting is not seen as, polite and whatever, whatnot. So, a lot of people you'll see, and the Westerners unfortunately are afflicted with this, that when it comes to the talbiyah, which is, we're going to come to in a second, which is an expression of your devotion and your preparation, the Westerners are like, labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik. And you go on a pack bus that's just come from Lahore, whoa, They are going, Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. You're thinking, oh my God, we're married down something. Madness, because they're up for it. You know what I mean? They got no pretense. They've got no, they put it out there. You say we leave it all out there on the field. They leave it all out there on the field. Whereas our sensibilities, we can't be seen to be out of control. And that's a big enemy. That's when your ego becomes a big enemy. It's when your mindset becomes a big enemy to the quality of your Hajj. So the ihram is a system. It's a mindset. It's a way you speak. It's a patience. It's a control. It's a state. The cloth of which is the least important. The cloth of which, the least important. It just follows the actual state. It's not the essence of the actual state. Alright? So, that's why I say to you that for a person to enter into ihram, all they need to do is literally take their clothes off, put the other one on and say, I'm in ihram. And the way that you say that is to say, Labbaik Allahumma Umrah. And I'll come to that in a second, okay? That's what you need to do as a bare minimum. And then you just go and do your thing, alright? But obviously we want to do the sunnah. We want to do a bit more. And so what the Prophet ﷺ would do is to clean himself. And so to make sure that one's private parts, the underarm hair, pubic hair, and so on and so forth, that one's mustaches, for example, are trimmed for the males, and that the beard, for example, some sunnah of the companions, if their beard was a bit longer, then Abdullah ibn Umar, he used to take that which is less than the over a beard, over a fist, to just indicate some kind of preparation, sacrifice. And then the key was a ghusl, a nice fresh bath, not because it's hot, and not because you want to, not because you just woke up in the morning, but purely for no other reason but then just to enter into ihram. Okay? And so a person does that, they enter into the ihram, and then they are ready now. They put on the cloth, and they are now, in the way that I mentioned, sisters, their normal clothes, but they would do that, they would clean themselves, have a shower, and then put the normal clothes on, and you are now physically in a state of ihram. You become properly into the state of ihram once you say to yourself, I am now in ihram. I'm ready now to enter this state. Now that's not a spoken word. It's a belief in the heart. But if you want to add something, then it's okay for you to say, Labbaik Allahumma Umrah. Labbaik Allahumma Umrah. Notice there's no Hajj mentioned. Why? Because we're doing tamattu'. Yes? Every single person, whether going to Mecca or whether coming from Medina, you will at the earliest point will say Labbaik Allahumma Umrah. What is that earliest point? For the folks who are on the plane, because they are coming to Mecca, to Jeddah, okay, what you guys will be doing is about an hour before you land, you're going to be making this statement. So you'll have done the shower, you will have cleaned up, you'll have put the ihram on, but you're not entered the state because you yourself don't believe you're in that state. You are only in that state once you tell yourself, I'm in that state. And so you've left your home 15 hours earlier, you're traveling here, there, hub, airport, blah, blah, blah. You only actually enter the state of ihram when you say, I am now in ihram. And that is said by the belief and the statement, which you would delay until you are close to what's known as the miqat, which is the stopping start or the boundary where ihram applies. For us folks who go to Medina, we will go to a place where the Prophet ﷺ would go to. It is called Dhul Hulayfa, alright, or Bir Ali. And at Dhul Hulayfa, the blessed, the great thing about going to Medina first is that you get extra blessings in your Hajj. Because the Prophet ﷺ encouraged the companions to pray at the wadi or the valley, which is at the area of Dhul Hulayfa, which there is a masjid there right now. And so therefore you will go there and you will take benefit of that. And so, which is not part of Hajj, you do that in any time. But because, folks don't normally go a lot, except in the season of Hajj or Umrah, then you get to get that bonus as well. It is at that place where you make the intention and you enter properly into the state of ihram. Okay? The next thing is, what do you do when you say this statement? Is it that's it and you pray 2 rak'ah? This is common culturally. Parks and you think that you pray 2 rak'ah for ihram, there's no basis for that. There is no 2 nafal for ihram. Okay? When I said that we pray 2 rak'ah, this is only because of that place in Medina. If we were going from or if we're going from Riyadh or from Yemen, or we were coming from Syria or Jordan or Maghrib, which is the direction of the folks who come on a plane from the west, then there is no rak'ah, there's no nafal, there's no nothing required. You just enter into your state of ihram or your physical ihram, and then you get onto your mode of transport and you come in. Once you're in, To confirm your state, to confirm your mindset, you start what's known as the talbiyah. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika lak, labbaik innal hamda wal ni'mata laka wal mulk la sharika lak. And this is a dhikr. And every form of dhikr acts as a talbiyah. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. All of these talbiyah are a statement that you are in the mood, that you are in an act of ibadah, that you're ready to come to the house, and you will continue a variation, and you will use your various dua books or your various sources. By the way, I've been handed this, okay, and this is one of the texts that we use ourselves, but there is no text out there. That's why this needs to be studied properly with a teacher. All of the printed texts out there have problems. All of them. You got some which are full of so much fabricated statements that you got to say this here, you got to say that there, whatever, okay, and that's a real problem. And then you got the exact opposite, which is that you can't say hardly anything except one or two things, which is a more austere version. You got then something in the middle, which is this closest to, but then this has its own few challenges as well. Those who study this with me will understand that. For you guys, it's not, no time to go into that academic detail. Simply put, it's a good guide, probably the best out there, but it has its own issues that a teacher will iron out. Significant issues? No. None of the problems are that which would invalidate your Hajj, but minor ones, which are, for me, insignificant, and for you as a practicing Muslim should be, but not from a Hajj point of view in terms of invalidation or validation. Once you are now in your state of ihram, you will continue this talbiyah. Women as well? Yes, according to me. The majority of your groups will be saying no. But we'll speak more about this in our own groups. But the talbiyah is done by the women as well. There's no evidence to suggest that they were not to do the talbiyah too. All the time, continuously? No. The scholars, they discuss this, but I believe it should happen at dead points or revival points or points where focus is needed. Okay? So it's got a bit quiet, or you just woke up, or you just had something to eat, or you just seen something amazing. So it's not going to be just a continuous drone. That's definitely not the case. But it's meant to happen at key part, entering Mecca. People get excited, then it calms down because you get stuck in traffic for 2 hours, yeah? Then you get to the passport office, you get excited because you think something's been happened, then you realize you're stuck there for an hour, so you stop quiet. Then it gets going, you think Allah Akbar made it, then you realize that that you're going to the detour and police have blocked off roads because you arrived at a prayer time. And in Hajj season, prayer time does not mean the start time of the prayer. Prayer time means an hour clean before the start time of the prayer, because they close off all the roads, because it gets so busy. A person, in Umrah season, if you've been to Umrah, made Umrah at normal times, people are in this very luxurious zone. Because Umrah is a holiday, frankly, straight up. It's a holiday, right? And when, it's that lovely romantic idea that when I hear the adhan, I'll leave my hotel room and I'll just bowl into the masjid, la-di-da. That doesn't exist in Hajj. In Hajj, you've got to plan waking up an hour and a half or be ready an hour and a half before the salah. And you've got to have entered, going through the masses of people through the courtyard, and enter through a gate an hour before the start time of the prayer. So by the way, my group who've been asking, looking at that itinerary, our one, and saying tahajjud, now understand why there's tahajjud every single morning. Because unless you're not intending to pray Fajr in the masjid, you're going to be there an hour before Fajr starts. You get what I'm saying? By necessity, you fall into the habit of tahajjud. So I want you to know that depending upon what time you arrive and these mood swings, the talbiyah reacts accordingly. Is that clear? Then you will then get to your hotels. You're allowed to put your things down and wait. You're allowed to shower again. You're allowed to go toilet. You're allowed to change your ihram if you need to. You're even allowed to sleep if you're very, very tired. All of this is allowed as long as you do not break the conditions of ihram. Marital relations, perfume, messing around with your beard, hair, this, that, whatever. Cutting, trimming, these kind of things. This is what are not allowed. Now, the number one question which is asked in ihram, the two, I would say, the most popular, are I scratched myself and skin came out, or I bit my nail and it came off, and I was just doing this, absent-minded is my habit, I normally do that, and some hair fell out. Or I went into the toilet and I used the toilet and I washed my hands with soap, but it's a perfume soap. And by the way, 99.99% of all the soap everywhere in Saudi, even on the rest stops, even on the entrance to the haram, even in the hotel that you're staying in when you go and put your bags in, who you'd have thought they would have, thought about you, they're all perfumed. So what's the truth about this? Does it break the ihram and then force you to pay a penalty? By the way, when we say break the ihram, it doesn't mean everything's cancelled. It means that you've severely damaged your actual state and you've got to make up for it. So what's this called in prayer? No. What's this explanation that I just gave? What's it called when we do that in the prayer? No. Sajdat sahu. If you make a mistake in the prayer, you don't repeat the whole prayer again, right? Depending upon the level of the mistake, you just add the sajdat sahu at the end and everything's right as rain. That's it. In Hajj or in Umrah, there's no sajdat sahu that you can make that fixes it. You got to pay a kafara. It's called a fidya. It's basically knocking out about 80 quid each time, about 100 quid each time. It's a sheep, right? Or a goat, or a seventh of a camel or a cow. Every big mistake that you make where you were not ignorant of what was going on. So someone's saying to you, stop playing with your beard, and you carry on doing it. And stop, and it's coming out, and you carry on doing it. And look, the hair's falling out, bro. And you carry on doing it, and you carry on doing it. This is the case where now we're saying you got to pay this fidya. You're taking liberties. Person, saying, I'm desperate, I can't deal with the smell here. I can't, it's disgusting. I can't. Chill, man. I can't. And this has to then spray themselves, or one spray. These are the people that are going to have to pay money. But a person who goes into the toilet, autopilot, aren't they? They go to the sink, they reach for the soap, they wash their hands, and then they come and they're looking at their hands and they think something's wrong here. Right? And then they think, oh my God, it's perfume soap. This is no fidya. This is a mistake. Person who does the odd one here and there, the odd whatever, get nervous, and it comes up, there is no fidya. It says fidya is when you do it intentionally, when you do it with mindfulness, when you do it with awareness, not for the vast majority of people who fall into mistakes. Is that clear? Now, on the issue of soap, okay, there is a difference of opinion. Is perfume soap the same as perfume, and which is prohibited? Because at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, it wasn't perfumed, the soap. All right, it was fat that's mostly used to clean. What do they call it? Hydrophobic kind of substance that basically creates an aversion to water or dirt. Anyway, so regardless of the difference of opinion, it is definitely safer to adopt the position that you should avoid perfumed soap, and therefore you take your own non-perfume version. Then that's fine. But I want to say to you, more fundamentally, don't worry about cleanliness too much. This is not about cleanliness. This is about you being in as broken and as raw a state at the house of Allah, going to visit Him. We've now in ihram, we've now entered the haram, we're now about to enter into the Kaaba. Lots of cultural ideas. Time is very short, so I'm going to go straight now to what you're meant to be doing and debunk that what you're not meant to be doing. When you go to the Kaaba, no, there is no dua which is accepted the first time you see the Kaaba and you make that dua. There is no basis for that. Not true. However, there is a dhikr that you can say, even though it's not the sunnah, and you have that in your books. Allahumma anta salam wa minka salam fahayyina rabbana bis salam. It's not the normal one that you say after the prayer. It's a different version. Look for it in your books. You cannot be expecting me to repeat things that you're going to memorize now. This is just giving you a skeletal structure. You will then enter into the courtyard if you're doing it on the ground floor, and the men will uncover their shoulders. So effectively, I had it over the shoulders before. You will uncover the right shoulder and then put it back over the left, and your entire right shoulder is now free. Okay? And you will enter into the Kaaba, or get as close to the Kaaba as possible. The Kaaba has 4 corners, as you will see. Most of the folks will enter in at the Rukn Yamani corner. Most folks, because of the nature of the hotels where they are, which is known as the Yamani corner. That's not the start point. Everybody knows that the Hajj al-Aswad, okay, the black stone, that's the main corner. You've got 4 corners, the Hajj al-Aswad, the Shami corner, the Iraqi corner, and Yemeni corner, all because of the directions of the countries that they point to. So when you're at the Kaaba, or when you're at the Hajj al-Aswad, this is your start point. This is where your tawaf will start. So you will look at the stone. You will not get close to it. You will not attempt to get close to it, especially the women, and I'll tell you the men as well. You will only be touching this stone by causing some harm to people. I do not expect people to try and touch the Kaaba in Hajj. I do not expect people to touch the Hajj al-Aswad in Hajj. You shouldn't be trying to. You shouldn't be getting close to. A woman who does that has sold everything. When she tries to do that, you will see when you get there. The men themselves, they are always going to be hurting someone else when they do it. It's not to be done. And I'm telling you here now, you can blame me when it counts, that if you do this not touching the Hajar Aswad with the intention of not causing harm, you're going to get the same reward as touching it. That's what I am ready to stand and defend. There's absolutely no doubt about what the Prophet ﷺ would have wanted. He warned Umar bin Khattab very clearly to not try to touch the stone due to his strength and whatever. And then he only ever did it when it was completely empty. So I want you to remember that. Despite its reward and whatever, again, you want to have all this nicety and fun, whatever, let's go on Umrah, chilling, it's a holiday. Hajj is not a holiday. Hajj, you're on a mission. Alright? Now, with the men with the shoulders uncovered, everybody's going to start now the 7 units. The 7 units though for a male are different slightly from the females. 1, because they've uncovered their shoulder. 2, because you will now do something called a ramal. Now ramal is this kind of very swift jogging, running to show one's energy and strength. There's so many people there though that there's no space to run. And so therefore it turns into like a pseudo kind of run. Like a pseudo synchronized swimming kind of thing. You're doing everything on the spot. So you're just kind of showing that you're active and you're strong and I can deal with it. Alright? So that is something which is practiced for the first 3 units going around the Kaaba. Once you've done 3 units all the way around, you stop the running, but the shoulder remains uncovered for the full 7. So that's a key point to remember. What are you saying as you're going around the Kaaba? Your focus is upon Quran and dhikr. Your focus is not upon holding things, reading from books, reading from dua lists, at all. That's coming. Your focus here is drinking up the house of Allah. Your focus is reading all the material in my group, for example, that you get beforehand, and the others who are studying this from a long time and taking this seriously, watching everything they possibly can in understanding the history of the Kaaba, knowing that who built it. That Adam alayhi salam was helped by the angels. Ibrahim is the one who then built it again with Ismail, and its position. That Hajar Aswad is from Jannah. That the Rukn Yamani is from Jannah. That the Maqam Ibrahim is from Jannah. That these are places that are very, very special. That they forgive the sins. And you're thinking about this. You're looking at the Kaaba and knowing that if you go straight up in this Kaaba, directly straight up, then you have the Kaaba of the heavens, Al-Bayt Al-Ma'mur. You're looking up and you're thinking. You're looking down, you're thinking. It's all a focus on the Kaaba itself. It's a focus upon you and how lucky you are to be there. It's not about reading dua or asking or whatever. In actual fact, it's about naturally saying Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah. You know what would normally come out appreciating what you're doing there. That is your focus all 7 times round. Other than between the last 2 corners, which is the Yemeni corner and the black stone. In between these 2 corners, you do the dua that we all know, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. And you can do that once, or you can keep on repeating it, but it only really is legislated for that single face of the 4 corners, or the 4 faces. Is that clear? So you've gone all the way around, you're focusing on the Quran, all of these lovely trappings that I'm not going to waste my time telling you about, which is the multazam, which is the clinging to the door, because you're not going to get to the door. And you're not going to cling to the wall, because you're not going to cling to the wall. You're not going to go and touch the Maqam Ibrahim, because you're not meant to touch the Maqam Ibrahim. You're not meant to touch the Kaaba, so don't bother getting close. Please don't wipe and embarrass yourself by wiping the black thingy-majig, the kiswa, and cutting pieces off and doing your bestie and whatever. Know that the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is not to touch any part of the Kaaba except 2 places. The Yemeni corner and the Hajar Aswad itself. Yemeni corner and the Hajar Aswad itself. The Yemeni corner is a touch or nothing. So right hand, touch, or you don't do anything else. In Hajj, very difficult to do. Try to stay back. Don't cause harm to people. Maybe possible certain hours where it's very hot, but in general, no. Whereas the Hajar Aswad, the black stone itself, you're never going to touch. But it has the added legislation of being pointed to. So every time that you go around, you will say Allahu Akbar. The first time you start, you add Bismillah. So Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, and you just give an indication to it. It doesn't need to be exact. Don't be like people who are always looking around, where's the line, how straight am I, and all the rest of it. From whatever direction you are, as soon as you see the Hajar Aswad, Allahu Akbar. Yeah? And that's what you keep doing as you keep going round until you've done 7. Once you've done 7, you've now finished the essence of tawaf. Now you've got to now do the remainder aspects of the tawaf, which is to pray 2 rak'ah. These 2 rak'ah, you recite قُلْ يَا الْكَافِرُونَ and قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ in it. For the men, you need to cover your shoulder again. If you forgot, not a problem. As we said before, you can pray topless. So what about just having one, you know what I'm saying? But you should cover your shoulder and pray. And then you get an opportunity to have some zamzam. And the etiquettes of zamzam, you do not need to stand up. You do not need to face towards the Kaaba. But if you are in the direction of the Kaaba, it's great. And if you are sitting down, that's closer to the sunnah anyway. You say Bismillah. And whilst you're drinking it, you make every dua that you possibly can. Because Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Al-ma'u zamzam lima shuriba lah. That zamzam water is whatever is drunk for. Whatever you say, you'll get. So you should make dua. This is the tawaf part finished and completed. Then it's the second stage of Umrah. Up until now, because we're going to stop for Maghrib. How many minutes left, Haji Ilyasad? How many minutes? 6 minutes? 2 minutes. Any immediate quick questions up until here? Anything on Ihram or Tawaf that people are wanting to know before we move on to Sa'i? Any technical questions? Any? Yes?
If the toilet is a soap, just perfume, and you're supposed to wash your hands.
Yep.
So do you just leave your hand?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If your hands are dirty and you've got perfume soap, what would you do? You would just wash it with water. You would not have to go to perfume soap. We've got to get that out of our heads. Even if you use the toilet. You would wash your hands with water thoroughly. You would not use perfume soap. Yes, Junaid.
Ihrams with like Velcro or like button holders. That seems
Yeah, this new idea of the ihram that has a button built in and a Velcro built in. It's an area of risk. Because the whole concept of what you're meant to be wearing is that which is not shaped to your body in its original form. When you tie something with a belt or with a pin, this is a retrofitted kind of, attempt versus something which is almost a dress already. So in my opinion, you should avoid ihrams that already have that in situ beforehand. Adding a clip or a nail, safety pin afterwards, because you don't want it to fall down, there's no major issue with that. At the same time, I just want to say, I don't believe that using the button and Velcro ones invalidates the ihram. Definitely should be avoided out of safety. It should be avoided to avoid khilaf. Yes.
When you do the 7th round.
Yes.
When you do your 2 rak'ah.
Yes.
Does it have to be behind the Maqam al-Ibrahim?
When you do the 2 rak'ah, good question.
Yeah.
When you end up praying the 2 rak'ah, where do you pray it? Now, the new style of the haram is that it has big boards sending you away to an actual location. The correct answer is you're allowed to pray anywhere. The preferable answer is to go behind Maqam Ibrahim, like the arrows are showing, and pray inside of the courtyard, not in front of the people, well away from them, as close to other people that are blocking things off, or as close to a pillar as possible. That is the better approach. We don't ever, anybody, at any time, ever try to pray in the courtyard or in the surroundings of where people are making tawaf. Don't do that. You will see many people, they'll just stand up. Haram to do that at every angle. 1, because they are insisting on doing something which is against sunnah. 2, because it's a danger. People fall over them, that's when a crush occurs. Alright, so we'll have the adhan, then we'll pray Maghrib. People who are on live, you're just going to have to carry on listening to that or put it on mute, because we can't stop the video, so we'll continue after the salah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar,
Allah.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا
thingies on the side. Have you opened up the chat thing? Alright folks, so obviously the problem is that when I do this kind of thing, I kind of switch straight into kind of proper teaching fiqh mode, and you know, this is obviously doesn't work. I really dislike doing this kind of brief public versions of something which is very detailed in depth. So we're going to have to change tack a bit, and we're going to summarize everything hopefully in the next 10-15 minutes, because you need, more importantly, for those who are not coming in my group, time to ask your questions. My group can do that, so I'd ask them to not ask questions, okay, because you know that you have my access details and everything. But the rest of the folks, that's how we're going to do it. So Umrah is what we're in, and we've done the first half, which is the tawaf part, okay, the more kind of visual part. The second aspect now, after you've prayed the 2 rak'ah and drunk the zamzam, is now to do what's known as sa'i. Sa'i means to extend one effort, and it really is sa'i. It's so difficult, sa'i, man. It's very long and very tiring, okay? And effectively, the sa'i is a resurrecting, I guess, the action of Hajar, okay, alayhi salam, when Ibrahim alayhi salam left them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and she was in a desperate state to try and find something for her son Ismail. And what she did is she ran in between this small kind of valley. She'd looked for the highest points, and that was Safa, which was quite high, but now because of the amount of people who have gone on it, it's now very kind of low. And Marwa as well, which is pretty much now erased to the floor. Safa at its highest point is maybe 3-4 meters, okay? And this area is called the Mas'a. The area that you make tawaf is called the Mataf, alright? And I don't have time to go into my personal preferences and recommendations in terms of first floor, second floor, third floor, but I'll say this much, that you should do it in front of the Kaaba when you do Umrah. When you come back in the rest of the time just doing normal tawaf, fully clothed, when you're not actually doing Umrah, that's something else. You might want to stay a bit cleaner, stay a bit fresher, stay out of the hustle, stay out of the sweat, and then you do it on the first floor, second floors, and the roof. But at that, that's a different type mentality. Umrah, I like you be closer, more raw, more real. Sa'i is something which is only ever done in Umrah or in Hajj. It's not done outside of. So you got to put on a very focused mind. You will arrive at Safa. My advice is to not do it on the ground floor or the basement. Always go to the first or second floor. Okay? Don't forget that piece of advice. Keep asking coppers, keep asking the cleaners. The coppers obviously don't speak anything other than Arabic, but the cleaners are everywhere. They all speak Urdu, Bengali, whatever it is. Yeah, you can always get through to them. Always say, I want to go to the first floor, second floor. Don't forget that for Sa'i. Do not do it on the ground floor. Do not do it in the basement. Alright? When you get to the first floor, second floor, and you get to the Sa'i area, there are a number of sunnah actions that a person should do before they start this process. Now this process of going back and forth, doing or reacting what Hajar did, whilst doing this, the focus is upon dua. The mindset is also upon dua. Like Hajar was desperate and trying to make dua. So at each mount, you will do a number of dua. Actually, 21 sets of dua. How does this work? You arrive at Safa. You will turn around and face the Kaaba. You will not be able to see it directly, but you will know the right direction because of the prayer lines. You will face that direction. You will recite the ayah. If you've memorized it, great. If you haven't, you read it from whatever you've got. Inna Safa, you say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Inna Safa wal marwata min sha'airillah. The ayah from Surah Al-Baqarah, right to the end. Once you finish that, you say, Abda'u bima bada Allahu bih. These are in your dua books. And then, I want you to understand that you are about to enter into a session of dua. A session of dua is like this. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك والعظيم سلطانك سبحانك جل وجهك وعز جاهك وتبارك اسمك وتعالى جدك اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا اللهم عافنا واعف عنا. For another 1 minute, 2 minutes, this is what we call a dua session. A number of dua that was put together to create a dua session. Depending upon your stamina, you could make it one word dua, or you could make it a 5, 10, 15 minute kind of dua, but it'll still count as one session. Now you understand what I mean by dua session? In this act of sa'i, there are going to be 21 dua sessions. 3 at each mount. So you will do 3 at Safa, then 3 more at Marwa, and you'll keep doing it like that. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. Then you will walk to Marwa and it will end. So when you end up in Marwa at the end, there is no more sessions, no more dua sessions. Is that clear? And the way that you activate these dua sessions is that you have to give each dua an introduction. This introduction is very well narrated. You'll find it in all of your dua books. It's the one where the Prophet ﷺ said, he raised his hands, faces the Qibla, and he goes, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, 3 times. La ilaha illallah, wahdahu la sharika la, lahul mulku, wa lahul hamdu, wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. La ilaha illallah, wahdahu la sharika la, anjaza wa'ada, wa nasara abda, wa hazama al-ahzaba, wahda. This statement is the introduction that once you've now said it, now you start making your dua. You go on for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. That is now your dua skill. How much you can go on for, what you've got in you, what you've prepared, how long you've spent, what you've written down even. This is a completely open. You can use Arabic, you can use Urdu, you can use English. In this dua session, it's up to you what you want to do. You want to sit, you want to stand, whatever you want to do. Then you will stop. Take a break, sit down, take a drink, whatever it is. Take a pause, 1 minute, 2 minutes. Then you will start again. 1 session down, 20 left. Alright? You will repeat, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, wahda. You will say the same formula again. Once that's finished, you enter into your second dua session. Is that clear, everybody? Then you will do the same, then you will enter into your third dua session. Once you've done 3, off you go on the way to Marwa. And that is why when you do 3 times 7, it will end up doing 21 sessions of dua. Now, as you can imagine, most of us couldn't even do 1 session of 10 minutes dua. We start looking at our nails and get tired and all the rest of it, which shows how much preparation. And that's why my group, now I bring you back to the point of why I said to you that the biggest preparation you will do for Hajj is in Ramadan, practicing your dua skills. There's stamina, there's emotional availability, there's focus upon your needs, understanding who you're asking from. These are essential generic skills that you need to work on. And my advice to everyone who's going with another group, the next 2-3 weeks, don't worry about your flights, don't worry about your transport, don't worry about your hotels, don't worry about your clothes, worry about how good you are at making dua. Hajj is nothing but dua. Umrah is nothing but dua, but people focus on absolutely everything else and they forget the most important. You should be writing dua lists, speaking to all your friends and asking them what they want. You should be articulating your thoughts and emotions. You should be researching the news, looking to all of the issues, understanding all the individuals, the characters. You should be specific. The Prophet ﷺ, when he wanted to take someone down, he would name them specifically. He would name their complaints specifically. He would be very focused in making dua. Your dua skills are going to be tested. That's why when I said to you in tawaf that your focus is Quran, it's not because it's not allowed to make dua, but it's because you've got 1 hour, 2 hours of dua coming up. You get what I'm saying? And so you will do this process. So the process of making dua, you come down, and by the way, you're not going to be climbing Safa, you're just going to be standing around it, wherever it is, as close as possible, and then you now go to the other end. It's about 1 kilometer. The walk, the kilometer? 6.6? Yeah, 500-600 meters to get to Marwa. The total is about 3 to 4 kilometers. So you're going to walk all the way down, and there's going to be 2 lights that are going to indicate the valley in which Hajj ran across. You've seen all that before. So once the green lights come on, you run across, men and women. I know the scholars don't like any women are not running, but the ruling came down with the women, and they don't want the women to run. That's the ajib fiqh of scholars. But anyway, I'm just saying the majority are not saying it, but I'm saying it, and I stand with my own position. However, you will run across that, and then you will walk the rest of the way. When you arrive at Marwa, you do the exact same thing. 3 dua sessions, just like I described. That therefore makes it 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and then 21, which means you will start at Safa making dua, you will end at Safa making dua, and then you will walk to Marwa, and that completes 7 circuits. That is sa'i done. The only final thing now that is left is to cut their hair. Now the men are recommended to shave their hair, and especially those who are going to be going to Mecca first, or those who are going to be going Medina first, and there's a long period of time, only 5 days, 6 days, then shaving their head allows something to come back up. Yep. So you will shave your head at one of the barbers. They're all over the place. Okay. And then the women, all they need to do is to gather their hair, whatever their hairstyle is. If it's very short hair, then they just grab it there. If it's very long, then they grab it there, bring it around, and then take off the edge as much as they can grab together, and they take off a fingertip, an inch, something like that. Matter is flexible. You just try to gather whatever you can and just get it into one place as much. You don't have to go for every single strand, but it's the vast majority of it. Men are allowed to cut their hair, but it's pointless. I mean, you're going out there for this kind of thing. At the very least, you'd go with a 1 or a 2 all over your head to make it all even and cut significant amount off to allow then a proper shave to occur. Once that's done, your umrah is finished. Then you're going to have a sick shower. You just love it. You're going to eat as much as you possibly can, and then you sleep. You're going to be smashed. All right. Now, the one thing I'll say is that big mistake is what the sisters do is that they take the little scissors with them and they start doing all that behavior, cutting their hair there at the marwa. You will see a lot of packs doing that. Okay, please don't embarrass yourselves. It's not allowed to. Yeah, they start doing all this behavior and exposing your hair and all this kind. When you get back to your room, just to take the cut it there. Don't do it outside. That is the umrah done. Now it's time for the tamattu, which is the open free time. Those who are hanging around now in Mecca, which is the vast majority of the Hajj, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days, depending upon the amount you paid. If you paid some silly money, 12, 15, 10 grand, whatever, you're going to be staying in the hotels in Mecca. Okay, and it's a different type of Hajj experience. So you'll be there in front of the Haram. What are you meant to do every day? Pray as much as possible, make as much tawaf as possible. Okay, this prayer is done in full clothes, this tawaf is done in full clothes, and you just make advantage and enjoy the Haram. Okay, doesn't matter whether you're in Aziziyah or Shisha or whatever it is, you're doing free. If you're in my group, you're going to be studying. If you're in my group, you're going to be super focused on what you're meant to be doing. All right, now let's jump to Hajj. All right, as I said to you now, people, what I've just described probably going to be happening on the 1st of Dhul Hijjah, the 2nd of Dhul Hijjah, and then the Hajj starts on the 8th, as we said. So when you are now in your hotel or in your apartment or in our group in base camp, we're now going to start the ihram process again. So another cleanliness of the body, another big shower, putting on the ihram, but this time not labbaik Allahumma umrah, but rather labbaik Allahumma Hajj. Alright? If you are one of those people who's doing it on behalf of someone else, a deceased person, etc., then you will say labbaik Allahumma Hajj an the person's name. So labbaik Allahumma Hajj, then the word an, and then the person that you're doing it for. Okay? And of course, I will clarify that for folks later. Then you're in now a state of ihram. The state that you are in is the same state that you were in for Umrah. You're back in the game again. Now though, it's a lot tougher. Because at that time, you know, when we start telling people about, especially my group will relate to this, you gotta get soap, you gotta get a chapal, and you know, they gotta be like this, gotta be like that. It's for this period of time. Because you worrying about ihram issues for or Vaseline or this or that, you know, and injury and whatever, and Umrah is a waste of time, because you're in a coach most of the time. It's very quickly over. Within 24 hours you're out. But now you are entering into a state where you're going to be like that, with the inability to now to clean yourself properly or deodorants and all that kind of behavior for at least 3 days, 4 days of this 5-day Hajj. Alright, so on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, which is known as Yawm Tarwiyah, you guys will all get together, and in a coach you'll arrive at your tents. When you arrive at your tents, you are now in the state of Mina. And this Mina, this location, you have to spend the night there. Okay? Now, I'm not going to, at this level, okay, if those folks want to know what level do we go to, it's when we start talking about what is Sunnah, what is Fard, what is Rukn. We don't have time for that. I'm going to tell you all of it needs to be done. So we need to spend the night there, and all of your groups will indeed do that. So you will arrive probably around Dhuhr time. You will pray all your prayers like a musafir. This is called Qasr. So your Dhuhr will be 2, your Asr will be 2, Maghrib is 3, and your Isha will be 2. Your Witr is remaining the same, your Fajr prayer, Sunnah and Fard is remaining the same. So you will pray in Mina, shortened prayers on time. And you will use that time to reflect and think, and hopefully prepare for the big day, which is tomorrow, for you anyway. Those who are in my group will have a conference there. At that time, we'll have the other speakers there as well. So that adds a nice little freshness to the preparation too. It's nice. Then early night, and then the next morning, then according to your coaching groups, you're going to then be carted off to Arafah. You're going to arrive at Arafah. You're going to basically be conserving energy, getting yourself ready. It's the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, it's your big day. And this day, when I say getting ready, it's all about mindset. Because if you thought you struggled making 10 minutes dua, then you were experiencing Umrah and realized that's hard work doing 1.5 hours of dua in 21 sessions. Now you're being asked to make 4 straight hours of dua. Straight hours of dua. So the only one who's going to be successful is the one who is not reading from a book or reading from a set piece, but is in connection with Allah and just wanting to speak to Him. So that's why the real preparation for Hajj is the real understanding of who you are and what you need from Allah. Then it will come naturally. You will be able to flow. It doesn't matter about language. Allah doesn't look at languages. Allah looks at what's in the heart. Alright? And so when you're calling upon Allah, you don't worry too much about the Arabic and the Sunnah and the memorized ones. Although, of course, those who want to smash their Hajj at the highest level, they do memorize the Arabic and they do memorize exactly what the Prophet ﷺ said. But if that's going to clash with your natural flow and need versus you saying in English and feeling it, you go with the English. The complete package is to combine the both approaches. On the day of Arafah, you will arrive. You will in your tents pray Dhuhr and Asr together, combined, 2 units and 2 units. Okay. If your group leader doesn't do that because they follow another madhab and you decide not to, it's not a problem. It doesn't affect the validity of the day. You do as your group leader does, because it's no point doing it yourself. Then the rest of that day is dua. The rest of that day is you pacing yourself. Now obviously in my group we will do different kind of stages and we'll do it in different ways. All I can say to the rest of you in your groups is just use your brain. Recognize it's incredibly hot. Make sure you invest in a good umbrella. You can buy them over there as well. These umbrellas are going to be important for you in terms of sunstroke and heat and so on and so forth. And try not to be outside where the people are trying to gather. Jabal Rahma is not a required place to go to make dua. It is dangerous, in fact, and there's no space on it either. People have got there 7-8 hours before you anyway. You just look around you. And in the early 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, it will hit 45, 48, 49, direct sun. Very dangerous. So at that time you focus outside the tent, in the shade, private spots, and then towards the latter part of the day, when the sun starts to go down, you've got about 2 hours of nice post-Asr time. That's when you start going out and taking advantage. Again, my group will focus on dua technique. We will speak about that. Your dua is to go up until Maghrib. You need to stay in Arafah until Maghrib. There is a natural tendency to want to rush because you need to now go into the next big act, which is the night at Muzdalifah. About 1-2 miles down the road. Huge open area. And this is why I tell people, listen, you paid good money for your Hajj packages. There's no doubt about that. And this ain't no charity, and you should hold your Hajj operators accountable. But it's really foolish people who really make too much of a big issue of the travel and the hotels and the comfort, because everyone's going to come to the, not crashing back down to earth, but crashing back down to life with a big bang once you go through Muzdalifah. And you realize that you are sleeping out in the absolute open. No bed, no mattress, no duvet, no nothing. Men, women everywhere. It's a complete, unbelievable experience. The ground is full of stones, sand, and you'll see 2-3 million people. You'll see some people sleeping under coaches. You'll see some people sleeping on the edge of the crevices of the mountains. And wherever they can find a space, you will sleep. And there's its own mazat to that. There's their own tricks to that. That's not for this session. The point is that you will arrive there at some time that evening. When you arrive there on location is when you pray Maghrib and Isha. We're on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah still, but we're in the night time. You will pray 3 rak'ah Maghrib and 2 rak'ah Isha and your witr, and you will pray that as soon as you possibly can, and you will go to sleep. The sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, which is actually his normal sunnah, but only people only practice it on that day, is to go to sleep early. Right? And that is what the Prophet ﷺ would always do. That's why he was able to wake up for the Hajj. The Prophet ﷺ was not Superman. The reason that he was able to break the Hajj is he goes to sleep after Isha. That's it. But we become alive after Isha, right? So the idea is then no tahajjud that night. Wake up at the beginning of Fajr time. Here I'll just deviate a little bit because obviously you're going to wake up and it's a nightmare when you wake up. Everybody, you're full of sleep. You're full of all the rest of it. And the nightmare of nightmares is that you need to go toilet or make wudu and so on and so forth. So a little bit of strategy. If possible, go and do every single toilet possible thing that you can in Arafah, okay, before you leave. Number 1. Number 2, sacrifice your food and your drink that night. You do not want to wake up bursting to go to the toilet. Some people, of course, medically cannot wake up except they need to go to the toilet. These people, I would suggest waking up at least an hour before the start time of Fajr and go to the toilets. you will not experience anything so horrific as the queue and being in the toilets of Muzdalifah. Okay, and I have not been to a toilet in Muzdalifah. I think I've only been once in 23 years of leading Hajj groups. Once, I think. Maybe the other time that I went, it doesn't count because I went after everybody had gone, which is like 2 hours after Fajr, right? But it doesn't count. So I just want you to know it's a nightmare. So you don't want to put yourself in that position. So when you're thinking, I'm so hungry, just think about that. Okay? Just weigh it against how really hungry are you. Okay? Because in that next morning, when you wake up and there's all these people, the next big challenge is wudu. And that's why hopefully if your group is a good group and they've got any people who are really into understanding the deen, they'll teach you how to make wudu with very, very little water. I say this because this is the first time that you'll be expected to make wudu where you are lying down. And the only way that you can do that, this is a cup of water right here and it's full, okay? I mean, it's too full, but this cup of water, you can see the size of that water. This should be able to make wudu 4 times, okay? So 4 complete wudu. So a quarter of this cup is what you will use, or what you will, and certainly my group, you will learn at the end of it, how to make wudu with a quarter of this. And all of you need to start practicing. Now, it's very difficult to make it when you look at that. When you look at that and say a quarter of that, how's that possible? So you need to do a few different things. What you will have is you will have bottles of water there everywhere, okay? Remember to take with you in your packing a safety pin. Don't ever go anywhere, anytime in Hajj without a safety pin. And when you see all these bottles of water, you'll see lots of rubbish everywhere. Don't discard anything. Always keep an eye on bottles of water and keep a bottle of water with you. Don't look to the temperature. Nobody touches the hot water because it's 50 degrees, everyone wants the cold water. You make sure that you keep with yourself 1 bottle of normal water. The second thing you always look for is a bottle top. You'll see bottle tops everywhere. So you will have 1 bottle closed, sealed, and a separate bottle top and your safety pin. This is your survival guide for wudu in Arafah and Muzdalifah. Okay? What will happen then is that when it comes to time for making wudu, if you need to make istinja, then you're going to have to literally use that bottle, take it off and pour it like you normally would, using minimal water to clean your private parts. Most of you have said if you follow what I just said, you will not need to make istinja, you will need to make wudu. What will you do? You will unscrew the bottle top, you will put on the spare bottle top, and you'll put your other one in your pocket, the new one, untouched one. And the other one you picked up from the street, that's now on your bottle, you'll now get your safety pin and you will basically make 20 holes in that bottle top. You now have got a basic simple sprinkling system. Now in Saudi you'll be able to buy also spray bottles. You can use this the same, but they're big and unwieldy. Over there, what I'm describing is a person who's staying light, and the lighter you are throughout this entire journey, the more successful and easy you are. You make snap decisions which afterwards make great sense. But if you got more stuff with you, bottles and bags and blah blah, you're not going to be able to walk straight to the Jamarat and straight. You have to go back to Mina camp to dump your bag. You minimizing the options on your shoulders and in your hands maximizes all of your outcomes in Hajj. Remember that golden rule. So now that you've made the holes in the bottle of water, it's very different, even with this much water, how you can now use. So you will literally now take your bottle, you will just press it once, a couple of drops of water will now occur on your hand, and you will rub it. And that's it. And then straight into your mouth. Just 1 squirt into your mouth, that's it, spit it out. Remember, it's allowed to wash everything once. The sunnah is to do once, twice, and 3 times according to different scenarios. This is one of those times we're going to do it once, okay? Then you will then gather some water into the hand, here like this, and then put it into your nostrils, and then clean the nostrils. Then, when it comes to the face, you will just squirt straight onto the face. So 1 squirt there, 1 squirt there, and even if you left it, the water is just gently trickling. We're not talking huge amounts of water. But when you rub it, everything. Men would go through their beards carefully. Then when it comes to the arm, they uncover the arm for the men, and you would then just 1, 2, and 3, put the bottle down, and it's all about proper rubbing. And you repeat that for the man, and it's all done. A little bit hand, and then the feet, you will sit down or you will stand, and you will just squirt from the top, and you will rub. The key thing is rubbing, all right? And that is your wudu done. For the sisters, they've got a problem here. This is where they need to work together. Our group will develop a system for that, but the rest of you, make sure that you create a little part where people can be covered, because you're not allowed to expose your arms in front of other people. You are outside, you are in front of everyone, okay? Now, one of the ways that you get around this is to wear abaya, and abaya obviously has a very baggy arm. then you can wet your arm and go in like that, okay, and wipe. Also, it is allowed for women to wipe over their headscarves. You do not need to have an emergency situation to do that. It's allowed if you have your hijab to wipe, or if you are not being seen, you can put your hands in and do it if you're not happy with that fatwa. But I'm completely comfortable with that. The Prophet ﷺ allowed women to wipe over their hijab, and then they would wash their feet as normal. Or, of course, if they're wearing socks and shoes, which they are allowed to, they can make masah over that, not a problem at all. As long as the sock is not an ankle sock, it must be above the ankle. So, that's your wudu covered. What do you do in Muzdalifah, folks? There's no dhikr, there's no ibadah, it's a straight sleep from the night before, early wake up, and as soon as Fajr enters, you pray 2 sunnah and then 2 fard. As part of your group, if there's enough space, most of the time there won't be, you have to pray it by yourself, okay, unless you've got a very determined group. And then once that's done, you've got now about an hour left until sunrise. The sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ was then to make a huge, long dua. So as soon as he finished from the prayer, he stood up, he pointed towards the Kaaba, and he stood, and he lifted his hands, and he made a dua which is about 50 minutes long. Like continuous. Now this is not obligatory, it's a sunnah. You'll see millions of people now just leaving. Alright? I said to you before, you're not there to follow the people, you're there to follow the sunnah. So the Prophet ﷺ would make dua, and then just before sunrise, so when it starts, the sky starts to get yellow from the glow of the coming up sun, but the sun is not there yet, he would then suddenly stop and they would leave. And then he ﷺ would walk straight to the pillars, the jamarat. Now I want to tell you that that's going to be very, very, very difficult. The Saudis basically block it. They don't want to. You see, after that Iranian thing happened, okay, and all the people died, they went, actually in fairness to them, before that happened, part of their investments into traffic control, they've always been paying a lot of non-Muslims, Western companies, Eastern companies to try and solve their flow issue. Millions of people in one place, how do we make it work? So they introduced before the Iranian system, but they went hardcore strict post the Iranian thing where the crush happened, all the people died. A system where they now do not allow you to walk all the way. If you look at my hand and imagine, this is unscientific obviously, but if this is Arafah, this is Muzdalifah, this is Mina, and the Jamarat are here. So what you should be doing is walking, you're now at Muzdalifah, you should walk straight to Jamarat. And you know all those iconic pictures that you've seen of all a sea of white? Those are always pictures taken of the people making the flow to field, ifada, that's what ifada means. Tawaf al-ifada means the flow, okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ثُمَّ أَفِيدُوا, go and flow from Arafah. When you finished Arafah, flow. So all these people, they're all walking like that. That's how it used to be. Now, no longer the case. Why? Because police, blockades, roads, blocks, cars and everything will force you, when you get to Muzdalifah, to not go straight to Jamarat, but into your camp. To your camp. And once you get to your camp, you are now controlled by a release system. A system that basically, on computerized, is saying that the only time you're allowed to leave your camp now is 3 o'clock in the morning, 7:20 in the morning. And that's how they're going to control it. And every camp is meant to follow. Now obviously, if you were all doing halal, that's what you would do. Obviously we're Pacs and we're not going to do that at all. So, we either try to circumvent that, or we try to... Well, the point is that you do what your group's going to do. It doesn't matter, I don't care. Whatever you do, whether you wait or don't wait, it's up to you. But the point is, on that day, at some point in that day, preferably in the morning, you need to get yourself to the end of Mina, to the Jamarat, to where the 3 pillars are. And these 3 pillars have now been turned into walls. There used to be single stones, single pillars, indicating the place, rough location of where Ibrahim alayhi salam pelted the shaitan when he tried to convince him to not sacrifice Ismail, to not do what Allah wanted him to do. The Aqaba, Jamratul Aqaba, the pillar of Aqaba, is the biggest and it's the last one. On the day of Nahar, the day of Hajj, the 10th of Dhul-Hijjah, you only focus on the last one. So you go past the first, you go past the second, and then you go and stone the last one. Stone with what? With 7 stones. Now, the collection of the stones, people make a big thing out of it. There's nothing to it. You can collect those stones anywhere, and you don't need to be sitting there measuring them again with the measuring tape. Just rough, small ones. If they're a little bit bigger than a pea, or smaller than a pea, or the size of a chickpea, that's it. You're not going to get perfect stones. They're all over the show. As long as they're not big rocks, as long as they're not those little kind of grains of dust. That's it. The rest all work. And you should pick up approximately 100. Don't sit there counting like whatever. You drop them, you lose them. You gotta give them to your buddy because they've forgotten theirs. You always get more. Always get more. It's not something I should be proud of, but I don't think I've ever collected stones in the last at least 10 years. I always take it from other people because I just can't bother to hold them. Yeah, okay, I'm going to be just straight up, and so make sure you get extra for the packies like me. You know what I'm saying? So you get your 100. You don't need a special bag for it, whatever. I normally use a water bottle, okay? Ones that are all over, because as I said, carrying things, taking things is an extra headache you just don't need, right? You go fresh, you go light, you use the surroundings, you take the things. People, for example, they worry about food. Don't worry about food in Arafah. Don't worry about food in Mina. There's lots of places to scavenge and get food, all right? There's all kinds of charities doing all that kind of stuff, whatever. Light, everything is light. So when you get to you collected your stones. By the way, you're still in ihram, and by the way, your dominant statement is still talbiyah, here and there, other than all the specific phrases that you're doing. Okay, Arafah, there is one specific dhikr of La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika la lahul mulku wa lahul hamdu wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. The Prophet ﷺ said that the best thing that a person ever said on Arafah is this, but the focus though is instead on dua, your own dua. Whereas the rest of the times here and there is talbiyah. As soon as you stone, the talbiyah stops now for all of Hajj. So that first stoning is the close down of the talbiyah. And so at this point now, you will now focus on hitting the wall. And each time we say Allahu Akbar, individual throws 7 times. By the way, if you're feeling ill or you're not or too weak and you don't think you can do it, you can delegate this to someone else. And if you are someone who's been delegated to do it on behalf of someone else, you don't need to say anything. You just need to stone yours first and then do the 7 for that person. Is that clear? All right. So once you've done that now, here again, it depends upon your group and your payments and what you've paid for and where your location of your retreat is, base camp, Aziziyah building. All of this is all flexible. But what most people will do is to now go straight to Mecca, to go straight to the Masjid al-Haram. Why? To do what's called Tawaf al-Ifada and Sa'i al-Ifada, or Tawaf of Hajj, Sa'i of Hajj, the big ones. This is exactly the same as Umrah. Repeating again, but for Hajj now. Now before that, there are still 2 things to do. The Prophet ﷺ, after he stoned, he sacrificed his animals. 99.9% will not do that. You will not see these animals, and you will not get opportunity to even get close to them. The slaughterhouse is actually, by the way, all of you, those who are not paying 15 grand anyway, all of you will be next to the slaughterhouse. Okay, that's close to where our camps are. Anyway, so that's why you are at the other end. No one's going back, no one's slaughtering. It's not a problem, someone else doing it for you. But the reason I mentioned this slaughtering is that it was done after the stoning. And for you, the process has started. Soon as the early morning, it started. And people have been slaughtering, and you're one included. Why do I say that? Because someone else acts is like as if you've done it yourself. And why I say that is because this is a tick box. Because you're in ihram still. And ihram is a mission, bro. Okay? Everything about it is a mission. No underwear, no deodorant, no, whatever. You are allowed to use, by the way, antiperspirant that has no fragrance. The problem is that the majority of the sprays, they have aqua in it, they have some kind of smell. Fragrance-free in the Western market means something very different to fragrance-free for us. So you can try the other things of obviously washing regularly, you're allowed to do that, or using the rocks, the crystal rocks, the roll-ons that don't have any smell at all, and that's a technology which works as well. Now, but still it's not great, the state that you're in, and especially if you're now going to walk to Mecca, which is about an hour and a half walk if you decide to do it, which you probably will, because the cars and the journeys and the taxis and the coaches, it's just impossible. You'll be sitting on one of those for 10 hours, so no one's going to do that. They're either going to go back to sleep in Mina, or they're going to go for it. And if you are going to go for it, what you would love to do is to get rid of your ihram. Now, getting out of your ihram, I remind you, you are in a state, agreed? We said you are in a state of ihram. And to come out of this haram state to a hil, a permissible halal state, is a 2-step process. The first one is called at-tahallul al-awwal or al-asghar, the minor state of halal, and then the full state of halal. When do you enter into the minor state of halal? And what is a minor state of halal? Minor state of halal means everything is on again except marital relations. Now, the only thing that you care about out of all of everything being on is getting rid of the ihram, right? So the point is that I want to aim to do enough actions that can activate me being allowed to take my ihram off. Does that make sense? to get to the minor state of tahallul. This applies to the women as well. Because when I say take off ihram, I mean the state of ihram. So if you do the following actions: stone, sacrifice, and cut on or shave your head, these 3 actions, you can now get rid of your ihram. You can now get rid of your ihram. You can now shower, you can use perfume, you can put shoes on, you can do all that behavior. Now my group is starting to realize why it is so important to have the flats that we have where we have them, right next to the Jamarat. Why I insist on this type of Hajj. Because we will go straight from our Jamarat, right 15 minutes to our base camp. We're going to have the greatest shower ever. And we're going to be fully fresh. And then we're going to smash it. We're going to go to wearing normal clothes and underpants again. Allahu Akbar, underpants. And then we go to Mecca to do the big tawaf. Now, you know I said minor state. Marital relations is the only thing which is prohibited. That is activated as well once you complete the tawaf and the sa'i. Once you've done that, you're completely out of state of ihram and you can party, literally. And we normally, in our group, we normally have an Eid party on that night. But last year's one was a bit there, wasn't it? Dr. Saab let us down, I think. Oh, yeah. See, we didn't have enough people from other ethnicities that normally hook us up. We just had the tight packies, and so therefore it didn't go down really well. But anyway, you're going to have an Eid party anyway. And this year, inshallah, we're going to change that. Dr. Saab is going to bring all the chocolate and coca and whatever. So it really is a nice party atmosphere when you get back to Mina. The focus, as I said, you go to Haram, you do the tawaf again, but now you're wearing normal clothes. You do the sa'i again, but normal clothes. When you're wearing normal clothes, you don't have the uncovering of the shoulder. You don't have the running. Okay, make sure you have an umbrella. Maybe if you guys were preparing for Hajj last year, you saw the Facebook pictures of all the coloured rainbows, umbrellas around the masjid. You can't remember that as an iconic picture of last year? That's because all the people at that time, they arrive in the morning, sun is very strong, but they've got their umbrellas and they're making tawaf around that. You won't see that any other time before Hajj. Happens after Hajj. So, do your sa'i and then you get yourself back to Mina. Getting yourself back to Mina, normally a taxi, 200 riyals for the car. Right? That's roughly how much they'll charge you, which is 50 riyals a head, which is about a tenner a head. You're sharing with maybe a bit more, about 12, 15 quid. That's how much you're meant to be. That's their peakest day of the year. It's a journey which is 20 riyal journey, by the way. On that day, they'll charge 200. Yep. So you make sure you share with other people or your group members. Hopefully your group members have got your group has got some system of keeping yourself together. We will all be very close, knowing where everybody is. We will be telling everyone to meet up. You get in that car, you get in that car, you get in that car. And so we will make sure we minimize that. And then you get back to Mina, and then the rest of the Hajj plays out. What happens in Mina is now relaxing and making dhikr, studying with your group leaders, talking, doing beneficial things. And every day you're just waiting for midday. Because once midday comes on the 11th, then you go and you stone. You've now got your stones, you collect and you stone the 3 jamarat. Then you come back. And then the 12th, you do the same again. And if you stay to the 13th, you do the same again. This is the Hajj. You'll now go back to your hotel, right? And you'll wait there until it's time for you to leave. You'll do whatever activities your group has organized. And then the very last final act, as close as you possibly can to when you're leaving, after you've done all of your shopping. So don't leave your shopping to afterwards. Do your shopping, do your major purchases, the last day if possible. About, rule of thumb, 12 to 18 hours before your flight time. You want to be going to the Haram and making one final tawaf. This one final tawaf is called the farewell tawaf. It is 7 units and 7 circumambulations and 2 units of prayer, and that's the Hajj done. It's officially done. There is no walking out backwards or not walking out backwards. I can't turn my back to the Kaaba kind of thing and all that cultural idea. This is farewell that has to be done facing it. None of that. That's just not true. And then you're going to basically get onto your coach and you're home. That is effectively the Hajj, folks. Okay, that's everything in a nutshell. What we're going to do now is we have about 25 minutes. So in these 25 minutes, we're going to cover situations, issues, questions, but I'm not going to say anything from myself. It's now you guys that get to ask what you want. And if there's no other questions from the other people, then my group can then take advantage as well. Problem. Salatul Isha is at 11:05 for those who want to know. Yeah.
Following order.
So there's an important point to remember. Now you're looking for that magic number 3 on that day of Hajj. 3 acts of Hajj to get your ihram off. Yeah, you're always looking for that magic number. By the way, there are some people that are so in the flow that they do all the 3 and they just carry on in ihram. They're loving the ihram. They're going to go all the way to the haram and do the tawaf, and that's fine. Of course it's fine. Yani, why wouldn't you? But still, regardless, the idea that you can only do these 3 actions in a certain order, although it's preferred, which is to stone, sacrifice, cut, and then go on. Although that's preferred, it is permissible for it to be stone, cut, sacrifice, or cut. Maybe you go into Mina tent and you cut there, and then stone, and then sacrifice. The order is not so important. It's nice if you try, but if you can't, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the Hajj.
So if the ihram was still not up for any reason,
Yes,
fell down,
you can wash it, or you can replace it, or you can get a new one. Not a problem. When you wash it, you would try to avoid using any normal soap. The problem with normal soap is that it has perfume in it, so you would avoid that. People ask, all right, what about when I get the ihram and it's been washed with detergent, or it's got a very fresh air freshener, fabric conditioner smell? That's allowed when it's before you enter into ihram. It can smell of whatever it wants. It's applying it once you're in ihram to your body. That, by the way, goes for you as a person as well. So if you went into ihram and you sprayed yourself with a antiperspirant that had a smell, perfumed smell, that's allowed to put that on. And if it's like one of these 48-hour ones or 96-hour ones, whatever, and it smelled like that all the way through your ihram, that's allowed as well, because you didn't put it on in ihram. It's a remainder of what happened before. Aisha radiallahu anha used to apply a perfume to the Prophet ﷺ before he put his ihram on, and that was allowed. Yeah. However, it's clear, just so that you may think, oh, there you go, see, the Prophet ﷺ smelled nice. It's not about smelling nice, because your ihram will be a couple of days, whereas the Prophet ﷺ was in ihram for 12 days, 15 days, 20 days. There's the journey, and then the Prophet ﷺ did Quran, so then he carried on. He didn't have a tamattu' in the middle. So don't compare your ihram to the ihram of the Prophet ﷺ. Yes, go ahead.
Is it possible if you can tell us which is the essential thing should we carry with us, like umbrella, other things, if you remind us?
You need a very small bag for Muzdalifah, the smallest possible, to have something in it. Those who are in my group, for example, that will be your shoe bag. That's the kind of bag that you want to be taking. Yeah. Remember, by the way, in Hajj, never ever in Medina or in Mecca, even if you're next to a shoe rack, it doesn't matter, never leave your shoes anywhere. Always take a bag, put them in your bag, and keep them at your feet. Don't put them in front of you. Don't put your shoes in a bag in front of you. You keep your shoes in between, just where you put your mobile phone. Exactly where you always put your keys and mobile phone. No one, I never in my life saw anyone put their phone over there. Is it? But they put their shoes over there. This is very disrespectful. Yeah, so you keep it in between your feet, just in front of your feet. In terms of other main things, Lala's asking for a list. Where's the one that Danish wrote? I mean, there's so many people that have their own opinion, but I will read you one that we've got as a summary, which is just going to be released to my group in a minute. So, sun cream, okay, sun cream, some good shoes, meaning trainers for outside of ihram. And the reason they need to be trainers or soft, whatever, is because your feet will blister because of your chappal. The chappal that you wear in your ihram should not be new. You should wear old ones. Don't go out now and buy chappal now. Go and find the oldest, worst pair that you've got. They're the ones that are going to give you the least problems when you're doing all of the acts of Hajj on Arafah and on the 10th day. An eye mask is good in Muzdalifah because the lighting is like concentration camp lighting. Huge floodlights that are like, it's murder. So sometimes it's good to cover your eyes if you want to. Earplugs help on that night as well. Earplugs are allowed, okay? Sunglasses, essential. Sunglasses, essential. Okay? Whatever, the as best quality as you possibly can. Okay? Why? because not only is the sun bright, but the Saudis are obsessed with marble, right? And it glints and all the time, and it dazzles you all the time, and especially in the haram. It's so painful. It's so painful. Yeah, sunglasses. Women might want to be looking at caps, hats. Men when they're outside of the haram. Okay, nail cutter, scissors, and razors you can get there, or you take from home, or your toiletries. If you have a toiletry bag that you want to keep everything in, make sure it has a hook on it, a strap, because you're always going to want to hook things. Okay. Personally, I prefer a carrier bag, right? And you'll get, when you're in the early days there and you're buying your drinks and your sweets and whatever, and you get in a carrier bag, make sure you keep a good couple of carrier bags. One is going to be used exclusively for your unscented soap, because it's going to be wet when you finish with it, and you've got no time to put it back in its packet or put it into a big heavy kind of plastic soap thing. Just stick it into a plastic bag, and you just what I'm saying. And then another plastic bag for your toothbrush and your toothpaste, and you would hook it onto the lock of the door. You would hook it, the bathroom. Yeah, you would hook it onto the lock. You want to keep it as thin as possible. So always using that. A power bank is very important. Everybody needs to take a power bank in our modern times, because your phone is going to be very essential, and you need to keep your phone charged, and you're not going to find electricity out there. So get a good 20,000 amp power bank that will give your phone 3, 4, 5 charges. Your mobile phone should be unlocked. Make sure you unlock your mobile phones. If you haven't, my group, if you haven't, I'm going to kill you all individually, because I don't think I repeat anything as much as I've been saying as unlock your flipping phones. Okay, check it as well that it's unlocked, because when you get there and then it doesn't work after you've paid 120 riyals, and then you try and blame them, don't blame them. It's because you didn't unlock your phone. I like that a person takes an extension bar, the 3, 4, whatever you call that, extension lead. Yep, I find that useful because when you're in Mina and when you're in other places, a lot of people are going to want to put plugs in, and you can't afford there's only 2 or 4 plugs in the entire tent. So we do a right package job. Basically, we stick one in, then we stick another one on, and we basically create the greatest fire hazard ever. But we still got 100 plug points in it, and that's all we care about. You need to take something for Muzdalifah. Muzdalifah itself, when you sleep on, obviously is very rough. Over there, you can buy for £1 the dastarkhan, but the one that's made of straw. You know what I mean? Mat. But that's got no padding whatsoever. People have got very bad backs, then it's going to be a problem. So from here to buy an inflatable ground mat, I wouldn't bother. So that's more important to me than a sleeping bag. However, a sleeping bag is good. It's not because it's cold, but it's something you can actually get in, and then and you'd get a cheap one. You wouldn't pay more than 6, 7, 8 quid, because you're going to leave it. You will never bring these things back. So you buy it with the intention of leaving it. You're paying basically 10, 15 quid for a mat and a sleeping bag with the intention, I just want to have an acceptable night that night. It is important to try and sleep, because the next day is a massively important day. Yeah, so you want to be as rested as possible. So that's what that's for. Glucose tablets, or I should say more technically, rehydration tablets. So ORS is a company that we've been looking at the moment, okay, which is very good. These are not taken after, they're taken before, in the heat, on Arafah and on the 10th as well. You should be looking at that. And I would also make sure you take a small towel for Mina. You have very little space in Mina, okay? You don't have a storage space per se. Whatever you take, I want you to imagine that in Mina, everybody, whoever they are, whatever country, they are given the space of a normal 6 foot person with my shoulders. That is the space. Man and woman, doesn't matter how big you are, how small you are, that's the space. And it's next to each other. In that space, you have to sleep. In that space, if you've got a bag, you've got to put it somewhere. You've got to make it your pillow, or you've got to make it that you put your feet on it. And the idea that you've got lots of space is just not a reality. So make sure you minimize everything that you take. So taking big towels is a waste of time. It's very hot, you dry very quickly anyway. So you take some small type of thingy. The money belt, ihram belt, is the one, is the same thing. And the rest, Vaseline, you buy that there though. Yeah. Water bottles, the spray water bottles to keep you cool. You can buy that there as well. Yeah, some safety pins, things to read. Umbrella, I think, is so important. You can buy that there though, but then it's not very good quality. But then, to be honest, when Shaz has been looking at umbrellas to recommend to our group, just to everybody who's watching from my group, it's getting a bit silly actually. The price is going up to 50 quid, 70 quid, 80 quid. You can pay some serious money, but we've just learned a lot actually the last couple of days that these umbrellas can become amazing. So today, for example, we saw one that promises 15 to 20 degrees cooler under it. Imagine that, bro.
I don't buy that.
You don't buy that. When you see the material, what it's coated with, that's when you buy it. Hazrat, you know what it is? The reason why I believe it is that I tried the £1 version. The white one, you know, the Bin Dawood one.
Try nothing.
50 degrees hotter than the umbrella.
That Bin Dawood one, it's basically like kaghaz, it just goes straight through. Yeah, and the sun goes straight through. What's the point? It's still hot underneath that. These ones,
It's not gonna hurt.
oh my god. Yeah, that's what I said, isn't it? When I went out and I came back, I had to be carried by all the people.
That's you.
That's me, innit? Luckily banda, isn't it? Not asleep proper Khan, isn't it? Yeah, that's because of that's about it really, in terms of lists. Yes.
How much money approximately we should carry with approximately?
How much money?
Should we carry?
That's another thing, you know, using some of these new apps that allow you to take, you know, like Starling, Revolut, these kind of things, Monzo, all these different companies that allow you to charge your card here and then withdraw money there at the same rate as what you do money exchanger. These are good, alright? Cash, what did we say? We said a person would eat, most of your Hajj groups would give you breakfast and dinner. Most of your Hajj groups, okay?
So 20 quid a day.
Yeah, so roughly around £20 a day you should budget for food, right? Once that's done, so 20 odd days, £20, 400 quid, and then, but it will never be that every day, but I'm just saying, that's a 300 quid is probably going to cover, and then the rest is just all shopping.
The shopping.
Yeah, it depends obviously,
Like
you know,
meats and all those.
are the budgets with you or not, or, you know.
About £1 average for person.
Yeah, plenty.
What's the umbrella called?
For two people.
No, we haven't decided on which one, there's so many. We're going through all the different ones to find the right balance of, you know, mates rates and pack prices and does everything. So it will take some time to choose it. But yeah, I'm just saying that you didn't know that there was such a knowledge around umbrellas until you actually start looking at it. And the thing is that we just buy, you know, we just use the one that the insurance company gave us free. And, you know, you go there and then you get burnt. So I'm just not going to make that mistake, that's all.
Should we take a travel insurance?
Banda learned his lesson last year.
Should we take travel insurance with us in case?
Travel insurance I think is okay. It's not haram anyway.
No.
In my opinion, it's not haram. So if you take travel insurance, the Saudis give emergency care to every single person. But if you have a condition or your situation gets worse, then you'll have to then be transferred to private care. But immediate relief, immediate kind of, you know, getting people back on their feet, it's all covered by their system.
Say whole tablets and everything, we should medication. Everything.
Your medication, of course, is the most important. A lot of medication in Saudi is either illegal or not available. Lots are. Antibiotics are all over the place. And whatever. They've stopped it now? We weren't able to get?
You can't buy over the counter.
Well,
Got a guy.
exactly. I think what the problem is that we got guys. That's the problem. We never experienced that in our life that someone didn't give us medication. But yeah, I mean, if you're there by yourself and you don't know the lingo and whatever and the moves, then yeah. So make sure you take your medication and extra as well. Nothing online.
Questions there. There's one second.
You want us to answer that afterwards when we go home? Unbelievable. Custom.
If our group leaves early from Muzdalifah before sunrise, can we make dua on the bus instead of waiting?
You shouldn't yani, leave before Maghrib. A number of the scholars consider that the leaving of Muzdalifah before Maghrib requires a fidya. So if there's pressure upon your group, you should say to your group, fear Allah. The Prophet ﷺ stayed until Maghrib and made it a condition to stay until Maghrib. However, Muzdalifah. Did you say Muzdalifah or Arafah?
Muzdalifah.
How do you leave Muzdalifah before Maghrib?
Can we make dua? No, I think for sunrise.
Read the question, La.
For sunrise, in the morning. If our group leaves early from Muzdalifah before sunrise, can we make dua on the bus instead of waiting?
If my group leaves early from Muzdalifah before sunrise, can I make dua?
On the bus.
On the bus. You can make dua, but it's not the dua of the Prophet ﷺ because that dua was done at Muzdalifah. You should be making dua dhikr all the way through anyway, but that is not the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Next one.
Is there a supererogatory dua for
Is there a what?
a supererogatory dua for after adopting ihram?
Is there a supererogatory tawaf, which means an extra like nafil tawaf for after adopting ihram?
That's what Wajim says.
No, there isn't. There is no actions for doing.
B, if so, can the sa'i be that is done after that tawaf be used as your sa'i of Hajj? Like banked.
Okay, so what they're referring to is something else, actually. And this, what the question is asking is not relevant to the people who will be doing tamattu. For those who are doing ifrad, it's possible to do the sa'i first and on umrah and then not have to do it again for Hajj. That's correct. But that's not nafil, that's fard, hardcore. Yeah.
Someone scented soap and lotions still have some scent and ingredients in it.
Yeah, they should avoid that then. Lotions that have any perfuming. If there's a lotion which is normative, non-perfumed, that's okay, and it has a smell, it's okay. Like
E45.
yeah, exactly. Like E45. Whenever you smell E4, you know it's E45. You know it, right? It has its own smell, but that's not a perfume smell. It is its own smell, so that's good. And that kind of principle applies. Yeah.
If you give money for the for the qurbani to the bank, right? So how
Yes.
do we know that we have done each other?
Good question, right? This is an important question, everybody. When you give the bank draft or you pay your Hajj group, and by the way, some people are asking me that those who are with me, you've already paid your qurbani. Okay, it's included. You don't know when it was done. You get that point? Yeah, it's essential because you're waiting for that to be one of your tick points. Okay, so you can take your ihram off or get rid of your state of ihram. But if you don't know whether it's happened, what do you do? So we've passed the fatwa. Our fatwa is that we give a rough time in the morning of the day of Hajj. And we normally say 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. They've been a couple of hours. There might be people that had been well before. It might be happened that they happened after. But by using this kind of median kind of number, it's an arbitrary number, it is okay. Meaning a person doesn't need to worry about it. Meaning that any person that pays for their qurbani, on that day and early in normal morning, they can assume that it's been done.
So can you tell the group leader can do it during afternoon?
So sometimes it is possible, that a group leader is connected to a person who knows the person who's doing the qurbanis and can then give a call and say, it's done. It's very difficult to do. If your group leader is able to do that, they did an awesome job for you. But I want to say it's not necessary. But it's best if you can do it. Awesome. Anything else, ladies and gentlemen?
Perfect.
Online?
Wonderful.
Any questions on online, Lala? Yes.
During the state of ihram, what kind of shoes can you wear? Can you wear socks?
In a state of ihram, for people who do not have any medical condition, you're not allowed to wear any type of shoe and you're not allowed to wear any type of sock. The only time that you are allowed to do something like that is A, if you have a defined medical problem, some major issue, significant issue, or B, that you couldn't find a slipper anywhere and you needed to continue in your ihram, then it's allowed.
So open sandals?
So in terms of the actual footwear, then you should wear either an open sandal, like you said, which is one bar going across and the rest of it open, or the flip-flops, but in a high quality one. So to Genchi Chappal, but the proper quality.
Like a strap going around, yeah?
If you have something that has a strap, the only concern is two. Number one, that normally the sports sandals that have a strap also have a lot of bands that cover quite a lot of the foot at the top. So it's not all one piece, but it's like another band and another band and then another band and then one round. So you've got to keep the majority of the foot uncovered. So if your sports sandal is effectively a shoe trainer with a lot of stripe of holes, and it is not really a sandal. The strap at the back is no major issue, as long as it's below the ankle. So as long as the strap is below the ankle, so it's not covering above the ankle, that's the first thing. And second, that the sandal should not cover the majority of the foot. So it should be avoided. There are very comfortable Skechers, Crocs, that do the sandal and the slipper type things. We've been using those all Hajj. They're the better ones to go for.
Even if it's stitched,
Yeah, those are fine. Yes. Let me show this on camera. This is the only problem, of course, is they're brand new, which is breaking the golden rule. But this is the type, because wearing the Genchi Chappals that the Paks wear, and their feet are made of mashallah tabarakallah. They're not insan like us, they are superhuman. Us we gotta protect our tutsis, yeah? So this is the kind of thing that you would wear. This is the ideal type of Hajj. This is the modern day na'al. This is the actual na'al. In Arabic, when we say na'al, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam labis na'alain. Na'alain means two na'al. This is a na'al. This is a na'al. Yep, but the difference is that at the time of Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it was stapled effectively to the physical, this part. So this is the ideal kind of scenario. However, if you have the one which has just got the strap going across there, that's fine. My problem with the sports sandal which has got this one is that it's got strap, and covering the toes all together. Like, you know, you get the Crocs, the proper Crocs, the ones you use, scrub up, doctors, whatnot, nurses, you know, proper all covered. That's unacceptable. It's just, honestly, it's a shoe, isn't it? With just your ankle bone showing. So let's avoid that. Yeah.
Can we use hand sanitizers? The one I have doesn't suggest it's fragrance.
Yeah. So the hand sanitizers follows the ruling of soap. If it doesn't have fragrance, then it's like using fragrance-free soap. Okay. And the smell of alcohol per se is not perfume, and alcohol is allowed to touch. My problem is not the legal problem of sanitizer. My problem is the conceptual one. This idea, you know. I mean, it's very. I mean, I take the mick out of people at the best of times, but then, you know, if I'm given an opportunity with a guy who's trying to do Hajj using hand sanitizer, I'm gonna, you know. So help me God, you're gonna die basically. I mean, you know, you're out there doing Hajj and manzas, you're doing this, that, whatever. So I'm gonna slap you down. What do you want me to do? I can't help myself. Wallahi, Allah created that shaitana in me. So. If there's no other questions, are we done with questions? Okay, well, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make your journey easy. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept your Hajj and the Hajj of every single person that goes. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, more importantly, to accept your dua. That is what you're going for, to get your dua accepted. And I hope to see you guys on the other side. If you do have problems, then be patient on the phone. I'll see you guys inshallah on the other side. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.